morning. It is June 11th, 2025, and once again, your CPI came in lower. So it's ever since the beginning of the year, it's been dropping even a little bit ahead of end of last year. You guys remember everybody said your shelves would be empty in May. Well, now that we're back 5-6 months in, the data could have passed through by now, and that is not showing up. So gave you a little boost. I don't think it was the biggest thing. Most people already expected that, and that was the trend. We also got to hear from Donald Trump on the trade deal with China. They said all is well and that they had it. Again, it kind of puts you in a weird spot because everybody was hyped up on it, but it's not like things changed too crazy. But other than that, we got about 7 minutes till the bell. We are bright and early, my friends. But yeah, I have a couple of plays, and then I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then we could talk for a little bit, and hopefully we have a good time, baby. But Chatadonia, I'm going to be watching a few. So let's see. Do I have a commercial too? Perfect. All right, I'm going to be watching Boeing, Pepsi, Baba, CNET, IBIT, UAL, TLN, and ALS. So ALS has Department of Defense deal. We already got free plays on that. Talon, they're like an energy play, and they're doing a deal with your boy, and then with your boy Amazon, and then again UAL. All the airlines yesterday, if energy keeps going lower, remember, there's still that effect. And then, yeah, China plays, Baba, Pepsi, and Boeing. So other than that, I think it should be a good one. Don't force it. And White House Twitter, what do you mean White House Twitter? What did they say? What you got? Yeah, Quantum is off Jensen comments. So we have a couple of things in store for the rest of the morning. You're going to have Jensen in Paris. That's not a rap song. He's going to be at a conference, and he's going to be speaking. He already made comments about Quantum this morning. That's why it's starting to run there. And then you have Scott Bessent in front of Congress at around 10 a.m., so 30 minutes after the bell. So other than that, our work is cut out for us. The market is moving. Post your plays. If you post them after the bell, I'm going to ban you. And God bless America. Get a long term. And I'm going to go potty.
Summit on Monday, which I was at. Oh, my Lord, the things that AI are going to do for education. There is no excuse for a low-income kid not to have the greatest education if his parents or caregiver is taking care of them. My gosh, they're going to have an individual tutor to walk them through everything. So it's really spectacular. The downside of AI is that we've been served, right? When I say we've been served, you had in February Elon Musk. You can think what you think of him with regard to his moral compass, but he's the Thomas Edison of our time. Said AI has the 20% possibility of wiping out humanity. There's the safety side that should set off alarm bells throughout the world, particularly in this country, particularly with this administration. And then just last week you had Dario at Anthropic. Amadai, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Anthropic is good enough.
So anyway, he said that in 1 to 5 years, we could have 10 to 20% employment because of the displacement of white-collar jobs by AI. So now we have
10 to 20% unemployment.
In this country in 1 to 5 years. So now you have this massive stability issue. You've got a safety issue and a stability issue, and within the big beautiful bill is a moratorium on AI regulation.
So no guardrails.
Oh my gosh, that is when you've just been served. And
he's telling you that part of the bill we read.
No one in the AI community.
Remember, I read you that 10-year. Right? You can't do anything.
Anyone that understands it and sees how it's progressing. These models are increasing 1 to 500% in their efficiency every 4 months.
All righty. All right, Chatadonia. We got about 2 minutes until the bell. Again, you're holding up decent, but just remember yesterday, like, it's all small. Like, the scoreboard's not crazy. That's why you can spend all day melting, and then you get one of those big news candles or just a random one. Yeah, again, yesterday you had 20-point sell-offs with no headline. So keep that in mind. Watch out for the Russell in small caps, and then also be on the lookout, too, for the day Mag 7. I think 6 of the last 7 days, even though some Mag 7 excuse me, has moved, they're all kind of lagging there. So we will see. Oh, Tem. I think I still have a free Tem. I hope I do. No. I do. I got one free one. But other than that, Chad, let's have a good day. Call out any news. You need any help with anything, let me know. Shout out the long term. Oh, the Feastable. Dude, I had the chocolate. It was good. It tasted different. I thought, I thought it would taste like a normal chocolate bar. It tasted like a Hershey's bar, but like lighter. It didn't seem as rich. So it was good. It wasn't like, I was pretty impressed, but I don't know if that's going to change my mind. But where is Hershey's? Yeah, so Hershey's, it's at a weird price. Remember, we liked it at the beginning of the year, then it got dirt cheap. So, but I just saw it, and I was like, you know what? Let me grab one. Elon apologizing to Trump. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's not, like, we got the vibe the last couple days. I was telling you, I was like, bro, he's trying to act like nothing happened. He's moving on. Donald Trump's not escalating it. That's how you do it, bro. You get banned, you just move on and forget about it, and then you'll get unbanned. You don't need to send an email. So that's what I think is the moral of the story. Remember, we're about to unban everybody too. I'm excited. So I hope you guys had some learning lessons. I look forward to the easy claps too. So that'll be fun. And let's have a good day, baby. So less than 30 seconds. God bless America. Shout out to the vets, baby. And let's get it. Oh, let's get it. Again, you have a couple ex-dividend dates too. And then LMT, they had the bad news. I don't have pre-market. Oh, I didn't open up my other platform. Quick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I didn't do the bell. Round 1. Fight. All right, yeah, it was on my other platform. Yeah, that was not as eventful as I thought it would be. But not bad. All righty. Oh, BTU, I forgot about those. Yeah, so watch. I don't know if those had any follow through. Again, ARM. And then the Baba plays. Oh, wow, the Oust. I forget. Again, I still have those free ones. Those did very good. Again, Oust had a Department of Defense deal. There's not that many options. Damn, I want to ghetto spread them or something. We'll ride for a little. Again, Google is still a little bit up from yesterday as well. And then keep an eye on communications. Remember yesterday, Verizon and AT&T. Walmart selling. You're not banned, so you're good. I hope that helps. Watch airlines as well. The Boeings have came down a little bit, but they're still up. The Magans are up 300%. So again, Magan is today. That Magan of, oh wait, I forgot. So watch materials. There is going to be a conference that will involve some of these companies. Again, BTU, that one barely moved. Again, Amazon and then Talon. So TLN, they did a power deal with Amazon. I like that, but it's only 2%. There's CoreWeave. I haven't looked at Nibis yet. CoreWeave is going. Nibis is barely up again. The premiums moved a lot yesterday towards the end. NVIDIA is just chilling there. So again, NVIDIA didn't even have the pop. Remember, we were looking for one of those yesterday. NVIDIA options, same price. So even then, a little bit out of the money cheap plays have not moved. Again, Oust keeps climbing. Those are 500%. And then watch Google, and then let's get an idea. Baba, there he is. So again, see if China starts to move. Bibsy. All right, so SPY's going negative now. Dow is already red, and then SPY has already flipped the 0.3, 0.4 from the morning. So again, like I was telling you, it was pretty small, even though the vibe was, yeah, good data, inflation, well. But 60-40, again, you are still very elevated. UPS, again, those value names. Equal weight is matched up with the S&P right now. So yeah, there's not even a huge gap between the two. No fucking way. And then watch oil. And then where's Bitcoin? Again, silver, platinum. You guys are bringing that up. UNH on the high right now. Again, 64. You technically have filled the gap now. So I don't know if that was where you're literally right back to the CPI level. This is where you would have your gap on the SPX. Meta, Apple join legal challenge against UK. And again, Baba just had that wick, but then it came right back down. Nvidia's on the low. Boeing flushing. A little bit down by 0.3. Again, premiums are still elevated, but they're just cheaper than the peak. And Vitis, and then Starbucks, they're going up. Watch, again, don't forget about the healthcare. I'm seeing a lot of biotechs moving. BTU, where's Oust? Oust is killing it, man. I like that one. I will accept. And then Bitcoin. Oh, yeah, dude. Alcoa's already up 3. Let me get more details on that conference now that it's here. And Vitis, there's Apple. I haven't looked at Meta. Micron again, too. Meta's coming down. So, again, big tech, very interesting. Even Google selling off now. And Amazon, they're all going red. So, again, big tech is kind of underperformed. We need some of that activity. GitLab on the high. They had bad earnings yesterday. Yeah, Wells Fargo Industrials. Pfizer. A lot of you just posted Pfizer. Disney on the high, too. Remember, that was crazy yesterday. And then a couple of those Bitcoin stocks are moving. Yeah, Pfizer's up a decent amount, and bonds straight up from the morning. Again, the data and some of the other comments we just heard in relation to Powell and all that. And then again, in a couple minutes, you are going to be getting, you're going to get Scott Bessent in like 20 minutes. Okay. Genie, W, GitLab, Zillow. Okay, GitLab's really going. Again, watch. I think big tech. We haven't moved yet. So again, you had your gap up. You're doing this. We've done this every single morning, bro, where we just kind of like chill in the certain range. This time, though, bonds are really advancing. And then Apple is starting to go. So that's going to lead you. UNH at 306. UNH kind of going vertical, but it's less than 1%. Honestly, I think it's just morning shit. But yeah, that's starting to move there. Again, Envitis, MVO. That's amazing. MO. So yeah, MO has ex-dividend coming up too. And then SPY near the low. So again, this is the gap fill. That's going negative. Russell and NASDAQ, only one's up. Baxter on the high. Intel. SFM. Oust gave up a little bit. SFM just popped. Sprouts. Is it Nike's? Nike's again. Wow. I know. All right. You still got a decent amount of things moving. Roblo, they were down the other day. Chipotle. I keep seeing Apple. That's great. Yeah, man. Apple's up almost 1% now. So I think that's huge. Again, even Google's still up. But yeah, don't forget. That's a big one. And then Microsoft now. You got Apple, Microsoft. Google's already up by 0.5. And then Baba, though. That Baba move is hella weird. But yeah, we haven't really gotten any activity out of China yet. So let's see. Oklo on the high. Again, Nike and a couple of those other retailers. You're either giving up the gains you had yesterday or they're adding to that. Keep in mind, we saw, again, a lot of those value plays get that bid. Starbucks. Again, there's Microsoft, Hollow, Roblo, UNH again. And Vitis is coming down. Nike, but they're still up a lot. Again, Oklo. Oklo and UNH. Damn, Oklo's up 5. That Bibsy, Habibi. And then Qubit. Again, Jensen comments earlier. Yeah, Baba and China names are going down. They haven't gotten any juice. Remember, even yesterday, they were moving. Circle. Well, Circle. Intel still flushing. ARM. Oklo again. I see Hood, and usually when I see Hood, I see Palantir next. So get ready for it. But yeah, Hood is starting to wake up, 72.40 to 73.30. That's starting to wake up there right in front of you. Now you got Qubits. Again, all those names are up. And then meanwhile, in this 8 minutes of call-outs, the bonds have only gone straight up. There's Shopify as well. We saw that late day yesterday. SPY coming up. Where is it? Today's the 11th. Mobileye. Watch Intel if that keeps going. All right. I'm trying to see if I could pull the full list of the Wells Fargo thing. But yeah, there's a lot. So you have a Mizuho Technology Conference. Oh, dude, we got American Express today too. Yeah, bro. So I don't know which one's gonna produce what. But yeah, you got AMT at 9:45, American Express at Morgan Stanley. Okay, I got it. FMC, Ryder. They're gonna be at Wells Fargo Industry Conference, and a few other. I have the whole list right now. Yeah, MO has ex-dividend approaching. Is this shit halted? Or just nobody trades it? Like Ryder, that one's going to be at the conference here in a little bit. And then again, FMC. And SPY edging up there. There's Robinhood. Okay, Baba Flushing. No love for China. But then, yeah, Starbucks. I didn't think the protein powder. What is it? Protein foam? They're loving that. Arquite on the high again. Bonds. So, I mean, you were here the other day. That's the interesting part about it. But let's see if they could actually advance that. But that's part of the data. Otherwise, the market has already given that up for now. CoreWeave gave it up. Again, there's a couple of interesting value names still moving. Tesla flushing. Nike just gave up too. Hot dog. Okay, even Apple flip, bro. What is this? CMG on the high. Coin on the high now as well. Microsoft's the one doing good. Yeah, Coin's starting to rip. But yeah, Apple and a couple of names just had a pretty hard flip. Okay, Hims is waking up. They've sold off the last couple days. I keep seeing Shopify going. Davla. You got to keep an eye on big tech. I'll get you guys a checkup in a little. I don't know when Jensen speaks, but you are probably going to get Scott Bessent before that. Cool little pop. The video always had a dividend. It was all minimal. SoFi's up. This one's interesting. Pizza. Hasn't done good this week. But again, not really any of the pizza names. But a couple of restaurants have killed it. Sweet Greens didn't. They came up today. I don't know where Kava's been at. And probably threatening police. But yeah, and then Oust is coming back up again. Nvidia and AMD on the low. And McDonald's. Okay, so those, again, I'm actually shocked we're holding how we are. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of red in terms of big names. So now chips are coming down, Nvidia, Apple. Again, you have Microsoft doing very good, and Google, I guess, is still technically up. Yeah, but there's a lot of names pulling you down, but you're still just holding. Scott Bessant. And then SPY, bro, look at this, just doing the little pin. We've done this every single morning, though. That's what kind of sucks. And then look at Microsoft. Broadcom breaking out. Okay, low ticker picking up. SMCI, Apple, NVIDIA. Now there's Google. Like I'm saying, it's kind of shocking, but you have a lot of names moving down, but the moves are pretty small in the scope, and the index is not taking any reaction. Gold and silver trying to move back up. Yeah, small caps have been doing this. It has been an unusual squeeze. There's Google flushing now. They're about to go red. So like I said, they're barely holding, kind of like Meta. And SPY just holding. Okay, who else? 10 a.m. So Goldman Healthcare, you got GNK, LQDT, Lung, Lyle. They're going to be there. We have free shares. NTAP has an investor conference. Oh, Navitas is at a technology summit today. Bank of America is going to be at the financial conference. That one will be big, probably. You'll probably get a headline, yeah. Watch Bank of America later in the day. SanDisk. I'm just going through this list right now. PWP. All right, coming down a little bit. There's SBET. See if the other Bitcoin ones go. GM on the high. GM kind of popping. It's only 10 cents, 20 cents, but that's decent for the stock. And then SPY slowly moving down, but you've been at the VWAP opening pin. But look, this time bonds are actually coming down. No, China got no love today. So again, I think sell the fact, more or less. Oh, in real estate, very interesting. And then, yeah, I think you just need either big tech or you need all of these other ones to like really keep running how they are. And it has already been massive. I'll get you guys a check up in about 15 minutes. Microsoft again. Microsoft's the leader one. Apple's still green, and then so is Meta technically, but Amazon and Google, they got to pick up the slack. The Qs are on the high, SQQQ. So see volatility, but you're going down, and now look at bonds. So literally 3 candles as you're going to the low. Bond just gave up that whole 20 minutes. Schneider Electric accelerates development of AI with NVIDIA. Again, we had another energy deal with Talon and Amazon, but they didn't really move too much. Okay, so SPY going lower. You're about to have NASDAQ go red. Dow is going green. Wasn't the Dow red earlier? I'm tripping. RSI, whatever that is. We've seen that before. Interesting. Why are the currencies moved a lot with the data? XPeng first AI-powered car with level 3 autonomous. XPeng in China. XPEV, that was the one. They're a decent amount. SPY, again, that was your biggest candle of the day, but just remember yesterday, you had like 2 20-point pump fakes. Yeah, Roblo did good. They sold off the other day. Watch for the underperformers, whoever lagged yesterday. See if they come up today. And then if they have continued strength. That's what I noticed with like UPS and Target. VIX is on the high. Like I'm saying, volatility there. That little move got things moving. So VIX is going up. So did the SQQ. You just had your drop. Almost every index now is red. Dow, NASDAQ, SPY. Russell's the only thing holding on. It's only been 17 minutes. So again, you pretty much had good data in the morning. You were already up. We ripped off of that, and now you have like effectively sold it all. You're back to Trump, the Trump comment on the deal this morning, the Truth Social. You've already unwound all that. That's crazy to think that was like 2 hours ago. Intel down 4. Jeez, bro. They really gave up all of that? Remember we were saying yesterday, we're like, it hasn't sold off yet. It actually held. So, yeah, just Intel being Intel. Yeah, SJM, that was a bad one. MO is still going, so watch those value plays. Again, you need big tech. Yeah, Smucker's starting to move up. Only 1.7, though. They had a big drop yesterday. I've never seen this. Why does it say YouTube is blocked? Have you ever seen this? I've never seen this in my life. I just clicked on a YouTube link and it says it's blocked. Huh. Have you ever seen that? I have never seen that. Oh shit, I'm muted. Damn. Yeah, I don't know why I got muted. And then Heineken to invest 2.7 billion in Mexico, but then Amex CFO is saying consistent spending this quarter. You guys remember I just told you Amex? So that list, bro, all of these names at the conferences today, there's a lot. So where is Amex? What time is it now? 7? Yeah, you have Ally next. You even have Ford at Deutsche Bank today, too. But I would pay attention to these, because you're going to start getting these one-liners. But, like, you could kind of anticipate it. Yeah, there's going to be... Wait. I don't want any financial releases. Yeah, Moderna's at the Goldman one. So M&T Bank, Apollo. Ford is at 8 a.m. The U.S. Bank Corp, Bank of all the Bank Corps are going to be. Look at AXP now. So yeah, that one's running. And there's this spot. Yeah, a lot of financials are at this conference. There's a Goldman Sachs, or there's a, I think it's Morgan Stanley U.S. Financial Conference. So there's a lot of banks. Again, I was just telling you the other ones. I'm going to make a couple of these plays. I'm going to try to front run some of them. I was thinking about it with AXP. If you did it, it would have worked. And then you still have the Goldman Healthcare Conference as well, too. Yeah, you're going to have and then you have American Tower, Amex. So that says 9:45 though. Oh yeah, so this is all Eastern. Perfect. All right, well, AXP ripped off of that. Bro, look at SPY. It just woke up. GM to boost output. So again, Ford and GM, they're at an auto conference today. I think that's going to be the move, you guys. I think a lot, if we don't get anything else, you're just going to get one headline every couple of hours from all of these events. Because look, they're all getting, you just got 3 random pops from there. But now the overall market's starting to pick up. What's that? Lockheed falls the most since March of 2021. Hot dog. All right. LAES. And then GE again. Ford is going to be there. There's a couple of other ones. Broadcom's still going. And then SPY just came back up to the first couple of candles. Same thing with the bonds. Again, AVGO's running. NVO's waking back up. See, again, you haven't heard much about it today like yesterday, but remember that $80 level. And then Bud on the high. ACAM. ACAM actually starting to take off. If you move about 2% there, it's not loading. Kind of a liquid, but it's ACAM. Yeah, ALS, the premiums are holding really good. Trump Fed should lower 1 full point. Coming out now. And then again, you have Bessent very, very shortly. Again, I think he's at the top of the hour. 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, you're going to start getting Bessent. Throughout the day, you're going to start getting these conferences. And then again, we're waiting for NVIDIA at one of them. So let's see. 10 a.m. slot. Are you guys ready? Write all of these down or pay attention. Hold on. Trump CPI great. Fed should lower 1 full point. Would pay much less on interest. So important. So SPY's ripping off that. Again, ACAM going. I think the market was moving regardless. But Trump, I don't know why. He said that many times. So it's not like that's a new headline. Hey, coming, young Jeezy. Got to take it easy. Only long-term way. And so, if you're looking for me, I'll be holding stocks when that shit drops. And I won't sell till it really pop. Cause I'm a long-term. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Alright. Okay, are you guys ready for this? 10 a.m. Top of the hour here. Biogen is going to have an analyst meeting. Bristol Myers, fireside chat at the Global Healthcare Conference. Honestly, that could be a good one, bro. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, and we got, what, 3 minutes? Because I'm a rider. They're already up 20%. Trying to, if I get finesse. Okay, they actually gave it to you. Yeah, oh, dude, they're getting clapped right now. See, look. BMY. Oh, dude. DJT, big announcement coming soon. All right, so literally, look at Bristol Myers is about to happen right now. So Bristol Myers, 10 a.m. FET, they're at Sidoti Small Cap Conference. FHTX, Foghorn Goldman Health. GNK, that's at June Small Cap Conference. LQDT, East Coast Advisories. Lung is at Goldman. Lyle, Goldman at 10. MTSR, Goldman, 10. Note, Small Cap Conference, and then NetApp at 10 a.m. And then Navitas at 10 a.m. And then WTTR. These are all the ones at 10 a.m. They're going to be at some conference starting. So that's right now in the next 2 minutes. Fitch ratings, emerging market cap flows weakened in 24 but should recover. Yeah, and Trump just said we should cut rates. TSM on the high. Yeah, again, Biogen is an analyst meeting. Again, I like BMY because it's a fireside chat. And then who is the other one? And then NetApp is NASDAQ Investor Conference. Nike now red. I don't know. Airlines, I thought it was oil, but then again, oil keeps climbing. Excuse me. Yeah, all of the nuclear plays are going crazy. They just got another volume pop here at the high. Yeah, Bessent starts in any second now. I have the video, but I don't have any sound. GM expects to have highest tariff impact for second quarter. Again, their auto conference, Ford as well too. Yo, look at bonds though. Bonds are getting murdered again. Oklo, anything nuclear just taking off. But then, yeah, bonds are kind of reacting a little differently right now. Mr. Bessent. Oh, I have the statements. Bessent says China needs to be a reliable partner in trading negotiations. All right, so you have pre-written statements right now. That's what the market's going to react to. So whatever you start moving on now is literally the pre-written of Bessant as we hear him, and then it'll be fresh once they start asking him questions. So right now, whatever the algos are doing, it's all off of that shit. So keep that in mind. And then again, after they start asking him Q&A, then we're going to really start to go from there. All right, Oklo, nuclear, any of those names at the conference, they are all moving. Bessent says Trump admin has cut IRS expenses and planned spending on tech by $2 billion. Budget receipts were up 14% over a year ago after April receipts increased 9%. Mr. Bessant. Yeah, I'm still survive. Inflation shows substantial improvement due to Trump. He's touting up the data today, and again, them even generating revenue through IRS. Okay. All right, bro, I can't believe Oklo and SMR, they really ran. Okay, where's homeboy? So again, we got pre-written comments here where we have a general idea of what he's talking about. He's just going to tout a lot of the things. They're going to grill him. But yeah, the Q&A, we'll see what he says. If he gets any hint on trade deal, positivity, people are going to love that. Yeah, Oust is crazy, bro. I'm still holding. I made it free. I had a lot more yesterday, and then Qubit's going. But yeah, that one's a really good play. Again, Department of Defense was the second catalyst for today. They had a deal. Yeah, Netflix, again, they even mentioned stuff there. BMY going, so again, that's conference, but we haven't had the crazy pop yet. Yeah, the BMYs went up 30% though. Honestly, it's kind of crazy. So near the money did better. The two out of the money plays that I did on the conferences, none of them moved, even though the stocks advanced. But then the one I did BMY near the money, that one hit. So keep that in mind. Again, dude, the list today is ridiculous. I'm telling you, there's like 100 different, how many? I think 198 names on my list right now of conferences, anybody with analyst investor meetings and conferences. 198 names today. All only US. This isn't even counting the foreign names. Okay, Oust is at, it's almost at 1,000%. That's crazy. Yalla. Circle's even coming up too. And Vitas is at the conversation too. So Invitas starts the conversation at 10 a.m., I believe, too. Okay, Bessent live.
Chairman Rangel, he recognized
again. You already know what he's going to say for the first 5-10 minutes.
The relationship between them, of its importance, and was a leader in helping create the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, as so many of us refer to. He wrote that after sustaining wounds during the Korean War, he said he hadn't had a bad day since. It's a pretty powerful statement. There can be no doubt that Charlie Rangel was a joyful warrior in the U.S. House. And our prayers are with his family, and I'd love to turn it over to Ranking Member Neal if he'd like to say a few words as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this recognition of our departed colleague. Charlie Rangel was one of the finest people that I have met in my long political career. Saw him as a mentor, saw him as a guide, but also saw him as an individual who overcame extraordinary odds in his own life. And he spoke of the anecdotes that should be powerful to all of us as we recall his contributions, including sitting in the chair when the Affordable Care Act was written. And I also think that despite whatever setbacks he had in a nation that was pretty segregated when he was growing up as a young man, he might have been a high school dropout, he might have been an individual who was pushing a cart at the Fulton Street Fish Market, but he also saw
SFL.
opportunity. And he always referred to America as this great country of ours. And I think that
I have
in
no
his
idea.
early days,
It's not
there might have been
liquidity
reason
yet.
for him not to think it was quite
That's
as
not a
great
sig.
as a nation. He
THC's
came
going
to
up
serve as
to a
war
couple of,
hero
again,
at the
biomedical
Yalu
plays.
River. But it was
I'm seeing
also
a lot,
part
again,
of urban
Goldman
lore.
Conference.
It was
That's
part
not
of the story
3%
of how
yet,
we've
but it's
all
almost
arrived
there.
here. And Charlie
And then
Rangel
American
was a very
Express
important
comments,
part of that
too.
mosaic. I will share one very funny story because his sense of humor was gratifying to all of us. He could take the steam out of an
THC,
argument in 10
Jensen.
seconds after he listened very carefully to what somebody had to say. But I think meeting the Chinese government was one of the funniest moments that I had with him. We met in the Capitol, and at that time, the Chinese government, they had not really made the sort of reforms that many of us have come to see today. They were not dressed in Madison Avenue garb. At that time, they were dressed in military uniforms, men and women. And we were all wondering how Chairman Rangel would greet Madame Wu Yi and probably 25 members of the Chinese
all these
cabinet.
nuclear plays.
And
Blech.
Charlie welcomed
And then the
them
ones that had
by
deals aren't
saying,
moving, so see if
"I
Talon
wanna
ends up
welcome all of
going.
you to the Capitol. The last
Gen
time I
Z,
was with
fastest
all of you,
growing
he
generational
shot me."
segment, AXP.
And recall that he was shot at the Yalu River, but he never forgot, as I said earlier, his reference to this great country of ours. So I appreciate the fact that you've offered us some time. I know that there will be a
House
funeral
is
mass
going
at St.
up.
Patrick's Church tomorrow morning for him. He was a man of deep faith and abiding loyalty to this great country of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranking Member Neal. I want to start off first by thanking you, Secretary Bessent, for coming here straight from London after fighting for America's interest in negotiations with China. I also want to thank you for your close collaboration and ongoing work with Congress to deliver
IoT,
the
they're
one
at a
big,
conference,
beautiful
Samsara.
bill to President Trump's desk as soon as possible. You have noted how the different
all
parts
closed
of
at Zay.
President Trump's
Okay,
economic
bonds
agenda,
going lower, spies
tax
trying to break.
relief,
Again,
fair
that could be
trade,
bullish,
and
even though bonds had
deregulation
bullish
are working
data today.
together to ignite a new era of American prosperity. Only 5 months into the Trump administration, Americans are already seeing real results from his agenda. Inflation is coming down. Just look at the price of eggs. They are down 61% since President Trump took office.
Wow.
Wages are increasing faster than prices,
Wow.
helping families recover from Biden's 21% inflation tax. $9 trillion has been pledged
This is
by the
Congress. You are
private
not
sector
watching Kill Tony
to be
right now.
invested in new
No.
facilities, in factories,
It's just in
and
case you're not
American
looking at the
workers.
screen.
In April, we saw the monthly trade deficit cut in half, with both U.S. exports increasing and imports decreasing. More than 70 countries have requested rapid negotiations to improve our trade relationships, to be fairer, to American workers, manufacturers.
Okay, well, bond
businesses,
slipping.
and
Spy wanted to
farmers.
move off
And
of
we
that.
are
Like I'm saying, we
creating
got to
new
figure this
jobs
out.
in
And
the
bro,
private
nuclear,
sector,
that's it.
Rather
Bro,
than more
nuclear
federal
all day right now,
taxpayer-funded
bro.
Bureaucrats.
I think NNE is
Democrats
the
have
only
tried
one
to
not hitting a
obstruct the
52-week
success
high if you want
every
to chase
step of
it.
the way.
That's all you.
Just last month,
So
they
look,
voted for the
SMR,
largest
Aqua,
tax
they're all at
hike
52-week
in
highs.
American history.
NNE is
in
the
order
one
to
that
bring
is
this
lagging
progress to a
behind.
screeching halt.
That's up to
Congress
you.
must pass the one big beautiful bill to save American families from a looming $1,700 tax increase and instead give Americans a
Qubits as well still.
$1,300 tax cut. 77 million Americans voted to make the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime.
Okay, high
tax
ticker,
relief for
short-term
seniors,
velocity
and
is
no tax
climbing
on
still.
auto loan interest payments.
Again, everything's supporting
Democrats
it.
fought
Remember, you're
each
already
of
up
these
before.
tooth
Ford
and
is going
nail.
up. They're at the conference.
40 million
ACAM as well,
families
and
will
GM.
benefit from the increased child tax credit. Millions of Americans
Qubit is up on the Jensen comments
born each
related to
year
quantum
will
this
now
morning.
have savings accounts started in their name. Democrats voted against both of those items. 91% of taxpayers who use the standard deduction will benefit from a doubled deduction that is made permanent and further increased. Democrats voted against that as well. Washington Democrats voted against cutting taxes for blue-collar families. They described these as tax cuts for millionaires.
This is actually kind of crazy.
Well, people making over $1 million will pay an even greater share of the tax burden than today, while families making less than $100,000 get a 13% tax cut. Nearly 30 million small businesses will benefit from a pass-through
anything that was already
that is
leading.
both expanded
Oh yeah, let me get you guys a
made
checkup
permanent.
real quick while
2
homeboy's
million
yelling.
family farms and small businesses
you're getting back up to
will
open
benefit
though.
from a death tax exemption that is permanent, larger, and indexed to inflation. Democrats oppose this help for Main Street businesses and family.
That is weird. That's what I noticed on that one bill yesterday.
The renewal of pro-growth tax
I don't know,
policy.
Democrats. Can anybody? Why are Democrats? They want to get rid of the step-up basis, and I don't know why Democrats are hell bent on like taxing the dead. That's the part I don't agree with a lot. Like when I've seen some of these. Well, I plan on going over this later, but either way, that's a sidebar. What I wanted to tell you was the checkup. So Dow Jones, 14 names in the green, 16 names in the red, believe it or not. So Dow is up by 0.13, but you have more names red. NASDAQ 100, 48 in the green, 53 in the red. And NASDAQ is green here by a quarter, just under that. And then SPY 260 green, 240 in the red. So everything's pretty much matched up, and Dow has more underperformers. And then, I mean, hence, we're barely moving today.
Ending under President Clinton, but he needed a Republican Congress to get it done. Illegal immigrants will no longer be eligible for refundable tax credits and other benefits. Democrats voted to allow this practice to continue.
Well, yeah, I saw.
Instead, Republicans' one big beautiful bill rewards working families. Take-home pay will rise by as much as $13,300, and 7.4
You guys
million
remember
new
I had a
jobs will be
conversation
created
on
or
this a
saved,
while ago,
including 1
because
million
most people didn't
small
understand
business
it.
jobs annually, and they need it after 4 years of Washington Democrats doing the opposite. This bill breaks with Democrats on surrendering American tax revenue to foreign governments. Instead, we put America first.
So yeah, like this guy, I like it. I actually appreciate it. There's a California senator, he's a Democrat, and I respect this a lot. And this is where I hope all of you get in this process and start looking. Because he was like, yo, here's my plan. We could lower the deficits by 12 trillion. This is how we would do it. And I read it. That's what you should do, bro. I don't care if it's a Democrat, Republican. I'm very interested in what people think is going to work. And I would love to hear a good idea. That's why I'm looking into it. And you should too. This is your future. This is your country. So this was the plan he put to save 12 trillion. So I wrote some quick notes on it, but this is one, and the man was just talking about it here. But like, look, where is it? It's like 500 billion. Yeah, end step-up basis at death. I don't get this one. I hope all of you hear me right now. Listen right now, bro. And then Kodak. But for real, bro, Republican, Democrat, if you are a normal person, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not ultra rich and you're not like, you don't have blue hair. I don't get it. You don't want this. Nobody, you shouldn't end this. This doesn't even make sense. I don't know why they would end it to save $500 billion over 10 years. That doesn't make any sense because this hurts the normal person. That means now if you immigrants, you know, imagine all the immigrants in LA who came here a while ago, like my family, and they bought houses for really cheap, right? And then, or grandma buys the house, 2 generations grow up with it, grandma passes away, they leave the house to the family. If you end up that step-up basis, all of those kids who inherit property are going to get fucked because now they got to pay the gain on the property, whereas step-up allowed them to avoid it. So that's not good for normal people. That one, I don't get why Democrats want to get rid of that, especially if you're like, yo, we want to help the normal. This is why people like Trump in that sense, because this helps the normal person. The average person who owns assets, you're not getting taxed on it. Again, the immigrants, poorer families who their only asset was a home and they got it 20, 30 years ago, not recently. They bought it and thank God they did because that helped them out a lot. Why would you want to tax that? To say, again, it doesn't make sense when even the savings isn't there. So for most of you, you don't want that. HD and Target, what is this? Yo, retailers are dying. Hey, yo, what's going on here? I don't know if Bessent said anything. It's all pre-written statement. He's not even talking yet. But look, retailers, Home Depot, Target, and there is one more. They all just dumped. But how many lower classes are buying homes now? I want to slap you silly, brother. You're missing the point. That's not what it's about. I don't know why you got, again, most homes in America don't have a mortgage. And there's people, if you want to protect vulnerable people, there's a lot of immigrants and there is a lot of poor people who grandma bought the house, bro. Do you understand what I'm saying? What is wrong with you guys? This is just like the other day when he does the tax bill for all the kids and you're like, oh, only middle class kids. It's everybody. What are you guys? What's wrong with you guys? So it doesn't matter who's buying a house now. I'm talking about, again, vulnerable people where their only asset is a home. And that's a reality that exists for a lot of poorer communities. If they're lucky enough to have the home. And now if they did have a home, you're going to tax away all of the money that should go to their kids. And if you want to make the housing situation easier, shouldn't that home go to the kids and be easy to hold? Imagine do you know how many immigrants inherit a property and then they can't hold it because now they're getting taxed on it and for other reasons? So, yeah, it's crazy. You're popping, though. Paul Tudor Jones, that's old. Everything kind of going up. I'm surprised, honestly.
The best friend of the president.
Remember, half of the names are still red.
He called the tax bill an abomination. The Trump Congressional Republicans certainly are about to make history.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think
Democrat
or Republican, none of you should support ending the step-up basis.
Simultaneously,
because like I'm saying, I've helped so many people in here. Y'all have inherited homes, and that was like a big thing for you. I've never inherited a home in my life.
The tariff bill, we don't
it's like,
to tariffs.
Dude, you gotta. It really, that could be the difference between being able to hold family wealth or not, or losing half of it.
Are being applied. We've driven away friends across the globe. We've driven away careful allies. I negotiated USMCA. It was done the right way, and the president at the time said it was the best trade bill in the history of the world. Today, it's the worst trade bill in the history of the world. That's what we object to on the Democratic side. You've had a reputation, Mr. Secretary, for sound, fact-based decision-making. I hope it continues to set you apart from other members of the administration. But we shouldn't be attacking the scorekeepers. I have many days when I've disagreed with the Joint Committee on Taxation.
Yeah, but
I've
started
had many
with
days when I've
nuclear. Now
disagreed
all the
Congressional Budget Office.
So
I've
again,
had many days when I've disagreed
Jensen
with the World
made comments
Bank.
and he's going to speak today,
but I don't suggest
yeah, they're all
it's
going crazy.
partisan. I don't suggest that they're making up the numbers. I suggest instead it's an honest disagreement. and I don't come back to the argument that they don't know what they're talking about. The math here is true. It's projected correctly. $4 trillion at least to the national debt.
Yo, and Bitcoin running.
That takes us from 36 to 40,
Okay,
41
currencies are coming
trillion
down,
dollars
even
of
equal.
debt.
Everybody's playing along right now.
When the new
There's UNH.
administration
That's
took
big
office,
UNH.
They said clearly
It hasn't. When was the last time it went above
that
310?
the reality of their
Yeah, it went up
economic
there once
policies
and then
would be
came
there
down.
for all to see. Well, you know what? They were accurate in that statement. The American people are being left
Now
behind in a system that
Microsoft.
is rigged, and I don't use that very often. The rich right now in America do not need a tax cut. Downward pressure on wages created by a
Oracle.
lot of different issues should be reasoned and considered here in this committee. We could find an agreement with the Republican Party on an awful lot of things if we left the position clear, as we did in the previous administration, where those under $400,000 would have tax relief, not those over $400,000. Oversight is a sacred obligation of this Congress.
Okay, Oracle,
Republicans
big
need to
volume.
at least from time to time
I don't know if
ask
you're,
a
again,
few
think China
real
shit.
questions of the
But
administration.
nothing in China has really moved
before the
today.
white
China's
flag of
been
surrender goes
dormant.
up to these arguments.
So yeah, but watch
Thank you,
Oracle
Mr.
tie
Chairman.
that to the TikTok bullshit.
Thank you. Today's sole witness is United States
Yeah, none of this
Secretary
shit's
of the
moving.
Treasury, Scott Bessent. The committee has received your written testimony, and it will be made part of the formal hearing record.
TMDX,
Secretary
isn't
Bessent,
that
you
the,
have 5 minutes to
transplant
deliver
company?
your remarks, and you may begin when you are ready.
Okay, Tesla's even coming
Chairman
down.
Smith,
UNH ripping
Ranking
through the
Member
high.
Neal,
Microsoft
and
leading
members
the
of
big tech
committee,
right now.
I'm grateful to join you today.
Walmart to meet
Treasury is
House
committed to
Republicans later
working with
today.
Congress to
Walmart
improve our
CFO.
nation's finances, create new jobs, and
Oh yeah,
strengthen
duh.
the economy.
Fight the king.
We look forward to coordinating with you on the President's budget, his tax priorities in the coming weeks. As part of this effort, I wish to highlight today the Treasury Department's efforts to advance President Trump's economic agenda on tax and trade. First, tax. I'm pleased to report that Treasury has just completed its most successful tax filing season in years, and we
That's what
did
you're
so
saying
while
about the
improving
receipts.
efficiencies and cutting costs at the IRS. Critics of the president's efforts to modernize the IRS warn that the effort
ACHRs,
would
those are going
result
up again,
in a
too.
10% shortfall in receipts. Instead, the opposite
Bitcoin's
happened.
running too.
April receipts this year
Okay,
were up
there's UNH now.
9.5%
SPY's still near the high of the day,
previous
but
year. And
just like
receipts in
yesterday, it's
May
very small.
were up 14.7%.
So this could all still change. Don't get too
over the
confident. But
previous
that's
year.
that's a new high.
Most remarkably, the
Well,
president
oh,
was able
fuck.
to achieve these results.
Yeah, above the
while
50s is good.
reducing $2 billion in waste and planned IT spending at the IRS. This success has taken place
Okay,
against the
UNH,
backdrop
more
of
volume
one of the
now.
most consequential tax proposals ever to come before Congress. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or as I will call it today, OBBB. The One Big Beautiful Bill will
OBBB?
make the 2017 tax cuts permanent.
Oh,
This will provide individuals and businesses with certainty and build economic
okay,
momentum.
Mara. Microsoft is the damn
Legislation
leader,
is
bro. I'm telling you, that
squarely
one's
aimed at
big.
boosting the working and middle class.
All
and
the quantum, Rigetti,
reinvigorating
Ion,
American
Q, every
manufacturing.
single one. Qubit was the leader.
According to the Council of Economic Advisors, the One Big Beautiful Bill will raise take-home pay between $7,800 $13,300 for the average family of four. It will increase wages between $6,100 to $11,600 for the average worker.
MSTR
and it will
now.
Cement no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and tax cuts for seniors. The One Big Beautiful Bill will also incentivize unprecedented investment in U.S. manufacturing. The legislation will provide 100% expensing for new factories, as well as existing factories that expand operations and support
Are these all
Made
small
in
caps?
America.
What are these?
It will
Dude,
streamline
it's just random ass four-letter
burdensome
tickers.
permitting processes.
I think Snap is
that
reacting
often
to
stand
the
in the
glasses
way
news from
of new
yesterday. And then
manufacturing
look at
projects.
bonds catching a bid.
It's time for this country to
Couple
start
couple
building
small
things
cap
again,
China's waking
and
up, but the big
OBBB
China
makes
is
this
dead,
possible.
honestly. We need
The
more.
administration is grateful for the
Okay,
leadership of this
Microsoft's leading
committee
the way right now.
in
I'm pretty
shepherding
confident in
the
that.
One Big Beautiful
Now you're
Bill
going up.
through the
Again, you're above the
House.
50s.
We are
That's a
working
great level.
closely with
And then
members of the
cryptos,
Senate
add
to
that
get
to the
this
list of runners
legislation
with
to the president's
Oklo
desk.
and Quantum, and then
Trade
UNH.
is the second topic I wish to highlight. The progress we have made on tax issues over the last 4 months complements the significant progress we have made in rebalancing the global economy. Since I last testified before Congress in May, the President announced a historic U.S.-UK trade deal. This arrangement, which creates a $5 billion export opportunity for American ranchers, farmers, and manufacturers, is a preview of what's to come. Dozens of countries have engaged the administration thus far with offers to improve their trade relations with the United States. This includes China. I have just returned in the middle of last night from successful negotiations in London with a Chinese delegation that will not only stabilize the economic relationship between our two economies, but make it more balanced. China has a singular opportunity to stabilize its economy by shifting away from excess production towards greater consumption. But the country needs to be a reliable partner in trade negotiations. If China will course correct by upholding its end of the initial trade agreement we outlined in Geneva, and I believe after our talks in London they will, then the rebalancing of the world's two largest economies is possible. By challenging the decades-old status quo on tax and trade, President Trump is breathing new life into the American economy. More than 500,000 private sector payroll jobs have been added since January. Most importantly, inflation in the U.S. is at its slowest pace since
Snap is up
2021.
We'll see if you can get Meta playing along.
Today,
more big tech would help a lot. Other than that, just Microsoft.
Since 2020.
It looks good, but this could all flip.
Most importantly,
China will
we
stabilize
are decelerating cost
relationship.
increases for shelter,
He's talking up that
food,
recent meeting.
and energy.
That's
After
new.
4 years of price increases diminishing the U.S. standard of living, inflation is showing substantial improvement.
Yeah, fat is
due to
working
the
up.
administration's
That's the
policies.
exclusive drug from the other day.
Furthermore, the labor market remains strong with low unemployment and plentiful labor demand as job openings remain high. This strength has been exemplified in the recent performance of the stock market and consumer confidence data. The President's bold leadership on these issues has laid the ground for a golden age economy. With your help, we can build on that foundation to create even more prosperity.
Yeah,
and
10-year
abundance
bond
for the
auction today
American
is going to be
people.
big around
We
10 a.m.
hope you will enjoy us.
Tomorrow is
Join us
bigger, but
in
it's
this
still, this is
endeavor.
the long end of the
Thank
curve.
you all, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, so get ready.
Thank you. We'll
That
now
China
proceed
comment was
to
kind
the
of fresh,
question and
but
answer
this
session.
is where now
One of the
you'll get
more
new
absurd
information.
attacks
More
we
nuclear,
hear
bro.
from our Democrat colleagues is that the one big beautiful bill is focused on the wealthy, not the working class. I'm sure the waitress who will keep more of her hard-earned money under the no tax on tips policy, or the lineman burning the midnight oil to restore power and seeing a tax cut under the no tax on overtime policy would be surprised to learn that Democrats consider them wealthy. Secretary Bessent, whether it is those policies or the tax relief in the bill for seniors, the double child tax credit,
dude, this is just
standard
melting
deduction,
again.
or the fact
New
that
high
the
after
tax
new
burden
high,
on the
bud.
truly wealthy will actually rise
Oh,
under this bill.
what about the truly
How does the
consistent
one big,
Bradley
beautiful
Frizzle and the
bill
Peach, baby?
deliver
Peach
primarily
Nation, you know
for
the
working
vibe.
families?
Or not.
Thank you for that question, Chairman Smith.
Thank you for the peach.
As we saw in
Wow.
President Trump's first term,
Wow.
substantial non-inflationary growth was created. Non-inflationary growth. Real wages rose, and working Americans did better. Hourly workers did better than supervisory workers. We
Stop
believe
it. New
that this
high,
will
new
happen
peach.
again.
Same peach.
As you
I feel
outlined, no tax on tips.
All right,
no tax
dude, this
on
is crazy.
overtime,
So again, you guys broke this high level, and now you're back to the
breaks
December
for seniors
all-time
and
high.
Social Security,
So that's why
and the
this level
ability
has a
to
lot in
deduct
store. It's
auto
really going to be like
loans
70 or
on
like
new
60,
cars made in
86,
America,
then
as was
97,
available when I bought my first
and then
car in
now again you're
1978, will
one
be
step
restored.
closer to all-time
All
highs.
of this will help working Americans overcome this horrendous affordability crisis that this administration inherited.
Yeah, China play is still going lower though, so you got no play
the Biden
there.
administration
and you still
negotiated
got a lot of
a
big
global
tech
tax
just doing
scheme
nothing.
through the Organization
Russell's
for
still
Economic
ripping, and then
Cooperation
Microsoft.
and Development that would rob American taxpayers of $120 billion and would discriminate against American businesses. President Trump issued a day one executive order opposing the Biden administration's global tax surrender. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, Congress provides the president, in line with that directive, specific targeted authorities to fight back in the event nations impose a discriminatory tax on American businesses, such as a UTPR. Last week, members of this committee met with an ambassador who was specifically concerned about how this provision would give the U.S. the ability to stand up for American businesses and respond to an unfair tax his country has imposed on American job creators. Secretary Bessent, why is it important for the Treasury Department and the President to have strong protective measures like the one provided in the One Big Beautiful Bill to fight against foreign taxes that discriminate against American companies? And how will the administration ensure that the use is targeted and in a manner to protect or replace U.S. tax revenue?
Mr. Chairman, for whatever reason, the previous administration chose to outsource American sovereignty on tax matters, and the Trump administration believes that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Many other countries would seek to pull in revenues from U.S. multinational corporations into their treasuries. And rest assured that the provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill to combat this are a staking out of our fiscal sovereignty. The U.S. tax system will stand next to what is called Pillar 2, and other countries are welcome to relinquish their fiscal and tax sovereignty to other nations. The United States will not. So this bill will allow us
AXS
to prevent
and then again, we're
our
still just holding up.
corporate revenues from being drained.
The video,
into
well, they have their
foreign
event today.
treasuries,
That would be nice
and
if they could
that
help hold
is
up. They're doing
in
good.
the
Point 4.
hundreds of billions of dollars.
Thank you, Secretary. President Trump is also using tariffs to level the playing field and demand fair treatment for American workers, farmers, and manufacturers. Secretary, you are on the front lines of the president's economic policy agenda, including through your lead role in trade negotiations to demand fair treatment from China over the last couple days. How do the president's trade policies and tariffs and the total reset of our unfair trade and investment relationship with China that President Trump has led fit into the broader effort to reorient America's economy toward one that serves the working class instead of just the
Your
wealthy
little pullback
elites?
finally. But that's without
Mr.
Microsoft.
Chairman,
Starbucks
China
going again.
currently has the
And
most
more
imbalanced
nuclear.
economy in the history of the world. They now have an approximate 30% share of global manufacturing, and they continually grow their manufacturing base. They are in the midst of a real estate downturn. Some may cause a crisis, and they are trying to export their way out of it rather
he's talking
than
about
take
China.
domestic measures such as increasing
I thought he was talking about
consumption,
us.
dealing with banking problems, or dealing with the real estate crisis. They cannot be allowed to
Ford
export
again.
their way back to prosperity, which would mean substantial decreases in the standards of living, not only for the United States working Americans, but for working citizens across the world. Our negotiations with all countries seek to bring fairness, and I will echo President Trump's remarks. As There are 18 important trading partners that we are in fulsome negotiations with. Many of them are coming to us with unimaginably good trade deals to bring down tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, which the academic research has shown can be even more pernicious than the tariffs, currency manipulation, and the subsidy of labor and industry. But as these countries come to us, and I look at the list, and I think, how could this have happened? How could this have happened? That the United States willingly they became party to such unfair, and unbalanced trade. And as President Trump has said, I don't blame the other countries. If you could get away with it, you should. It was those sitting behind the Resolute desk or those making trade policy who've allowed this to happen over 40 years. And we are determined to rebalance.
Hey, yo, you got Meta news coming out. And then something on Disney, but Meta's launching something. VJEPA 2 blog.
So maybe we could
3
stick to a
benchmarks
couple of
for
facts
AI
here,
models
as
and
previously,
video.
Discussed, and that is that if you made $1 million last year, you're going to get about $84,000.
Hasn't moved though.
In tax relief with this bill. If you made under $50,000, you are likely to get about $1 a day. The president said that we'd have 90 trade agreements in 90 days. We're 89 short because of the manner in which some of these allies have been offended. We want trade balance for sure, but we also want to make sure that it's done
and then
in a
Polish
manner
Premier wins
that will
confidence
last,
vote.
not subject to the whims of the administration. I understand, Mr. Secretary, that you don't agree with some of the economic forecasts that have been projected
data kelb.
as it relates to the big, beautiful bill. So Pim
Yeah,
Wharton
is that
says
like a
this
video
bill
app or it
will
says
add
something about, like,
trillions of
physical
dollars to the
reason?
national debt. The Yale Budget Lab says this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. Well, we're 0 for 2. But how about Maya McGinnis? Not exactly known for their socialist leanings. They say this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. Well, let's go to the Tax Foundation. Hardly a left-leaning political organization. They say this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt because the money's going to be borrowed. Here, facts should matter. The advice of experts should matter. We have seen the bond market's reaction to some of these proposals. They're jittery. But you know what? In this committee, we listen. The administration is putting its head in the sand on this debt issue.
Yeah. Okay,
the facts are going to be hard to escape. So let me turn to
airlines.
the impact of budget reconciliation as it relates to health care. In addition
U.S.
to adding
says
trillions
building
to the
telecom
US debt,
towers in Panama
the bill will
to
cause
replace
16
Huawei.
million Americans
I don't know if
to
that's not
lose
related, but
part
airlines just
or
took a
all
dump.
of their
Check
health
if oil's
insurance,
moving up.
according to CBO. We know what the consequence will be of losing health
something's
insurance
happening. Bonds got
to
a
the American
bid.
family.
Airlines,
More
and
visits
then I
to the
think oil.
emergency
It has
room.
to be oil.
More postponed treatments.
All right,
More
well, eyes up.
bankruptcies that will come because of it. The problems that people have with health insurance only mean that later on the problems pile up. Bad health,
Bank of America,
challenge that is
businesses
now going
just
to
want
occur
the
for
tariff
rural
situation. Oh, yeah, his
hospitals, surely
conference.
many of which will be forced to close. Cutting more than $1.5 trillion from Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act certainly will mean job losses. No industry can sustain $1.5 trillion in cuts.
Something's
while
happening.
we borrow
Mexico
money for a
Sheinbaum
big tax cut that,
reiterates
despite what
she
has been said here
expects to
today,
talk to Trump.
still favors people overwhelmingly at the top.
You got Sheinbaum
Let me
comments.
say,
You
in
got
regard to the
something with
testimony,
towers
Mr.
and Bank of
Secretary, that you've
America.
offered, there's another
Yeah,
key consideration
bonds
here.
just got a
You're
pop spy
suggesting
kind
that
of
the
tweaking
improvements
here.
at the IRS have all taken place in the last 6 months? It's because of what we did with the Inflation Reduction Act. That's why the improvements have taken place, the technological upgrades that have taken place as well.
Fool. You're a liar.
We have a pretty good understanding
You
of
said
this.
all of that,
we
and
want
then
to
you
use
bring up
artificial
inflation
intelligence
reduction
for better
and
tax
ignore
collections.
your impact
but all
on
of
the
this just
deficit.
happened in the last 6
And
months.
how come none of your experts
That's our
said that
understanding,
4 years ago?
based upon the testimony.
This is why we can't take y'all seriously.
Commonwealth Fund, cuts to Medicaid and SNAP are going to lead to the loss of over 1 million jobs. The American Hospital Association estimates
That's
that
what I'm
tens
saying.
of thousands
Like,
of
I didn't
hospital
say
jobs
shit
will
up
be lost
until
as a result of these cuts.
Wait, what do you mean you're going to go and say
Furthermore, a
all of
professor
that
at Yale has said
and then
that
try to
this will
spin it like the
conservatively
same money
cause
spending
tens
is
of
why
thousands of
you
unnecessary
had
deaths.
inflation go down?
Where's
Come on,
healthcare?
bro.
Job losses, more borrowed money. The American people deserve considerably better than what we're being
They
told.
deserve the truth.
But let me offer this challenge,
not be
Mr.
misled.
Secretary. We would be prepared
Microsoft.
on the minority side to work with the administration and direct tax
Again,
relief
airlines
back
still
to
getting
people
dumped on right
under
now.
$400,000
And then all the other runners
of
are
joint
still
income,
going from
as
earlier.
opposed to the suggestion
Weird
that
push
is
and
being
pull.
offered
Bank of
here
America
today.
comments
If
again.
you disagree with the number that I offered about tax relief for
U.S.
$1
did
million
not receive
last
any
year,
crude imports
Let me
from
give you the last
Saudi
30
Arabia
seconds.
in last
Speak
week
to
for
that.
the first time since January 21.
The Representative Neal, I have great respect for you. We've had good conversations, but respectfully, if I weigh 1,000 pounds and you weigh 50, and I gain 10 pounds, or I gain 10%, I have gained 100,000. That during President Trump's first tax cuts, the share of taxes paid by the high end of taxpayers, they increased by more than 7%. And I'm sorry, I chuckled when you talked about the IT at the IRS. The program
He
is
said I chuckled.
35 years behind schedule. 35 years. And
Yeah.
is wasting $2 billion a year.
That's why we put the extra money in, Mr.
No.
Secretary.
The extra money went in for bodies, and whistleblowers acknowledged that standards
Yeah,
were being
this is the other
lowered
part
to
with Democrats
bring
that is
in
kind of odd.
new
I noticed
agents.
this yesterday. I will show
The
you.
money is not the issue here. It is how the money is spent.
Amen.
That's exactly right. We agree on that.
All right,
How the
good.
money is spent. And the
And-
last point that I would
and
make,
it has been spent poorly.
let me make this last point, Mr. Secretary. Do you agree with the idea that in 2017,
See, because here's the other one.
that the federal government, emanating from this committee, borrowed $2.3 trillion for that tax cut?
What the belief is that everyone on the Democratic side voted for the biggest blowout for the deficit in history,
Yeah.
and that we are suffering from that.
Amen.
This past tax year, we will have between a 6.5 and 6.7% deficit, so I find it very difficult to be lectured to
Amen.
by people who created the largest deficit in history
Amen.
when we were not at war and not in a recession.
So
Amen.
I negotiated with Secretary Mnuchin the pandemic
Very hard to
relief
get
bill,
lectured. You did it.
if that's the reference point. That's where overwhelmingly the money went. That was not a bad infusion of money. It
that is
worked.
not
The
over-
economy-
Yeah, but look, so this is that other bill I showed you, and I was like, this is a good idea, but look, they have another one. Where is it? Yeah, look, go after tax cheats by restoring IRS funding. So this is the part I disagree with, because again, Democrats are putting over plans, $300 billion, and they're saying we're going to generate revenue by, it says spending, increase funding. Yeah, it's wild.
To have your leadership. Since coming to Congress, I've seen administrations from both parties, I'll say that up front, in terms of what's happened with the debt deficit. I want to get your perspective. I mean, the reality is, last 20 years, over $20 trillion in additional debt. I remember in the 80s, frankly, where we had the junk bond markets. I look at all these younger people out here, what we're leaving them is deplorable. And I just want to make sure that we're giving as much consideration as we can to that. 49 out of 50 governors have to balance the budget. It's my biggest issue up here. It's not about one party or the other. It's both parties have done little or nothing in this area, and it needs to get addressed. When you spend last year, you take in $5 trillion, spend $7 trillion, and you average over $1 trillion a year for over the last 20 years. We need to get real about it, because again, in the 70s, in the 80s, all the junk bond, I seen what happened with all the markets and all that. So can you make, I know you touched on it, but could you, and we'll get into the pro-growth things in a minute, can you just touch on it, your thoughts about where we're at and where we're going as it relates to that? I know we've got people looking at making cuts, but I do want to get your perspective on
Congressman, I've enjoyed our conversations in the past. You, as a very successful private businessman, understand the power of this tax bill, especially in the expensing. You and I discussed it in great detail. And look, we do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. We are right in line with the long-term revenues of approximately 17 to 18% of GDP. What we've seen here is a blowout in the spending. And as I was saying, last fiscal year was something we have never seen before. We have never seen a deficit to GDP this large when we were not at war, or not in a recession, or not in a pandemic.
Yeah,
We
Mr.
could call that
Secretary,
a war.
we only have 5 minutes. Let me just mention just real quickly. You mentioned, I just want to get this in, that 100% expensing is like jet fuel. And 199 is huge. These are huge opportunities to make a big difference for small business. But to me, it's because I'm so passionate about it, because they're the job creators. So can you comment on that, your thoughts in terms of 199A and 100% expensing?
Congressman, I'll very quickly comment on two things. It is the 100% expensing that is powerful, and we are adding not only expensing for equipment, as in President Trump's first term, we are adding 100% for factory structures. So if you want to build your factory here in the U.S., we want it to be tax efficient. We want you to have regulatory certainty. We want you to have quick permitting, and that is likely the single most powerful aspect. As the ranking member discussed, on the 400,000 level,
TRML,
unfortunately,
2% pop. You guys know this is Martin Shkreli. I think before they kicked him out, this was his biotech.
Pass-through entities.
And then Oklo, bro, I don't know what to tell you. It's going nuclear.
Above
and then Robinhood.
That 400,000 threshold.
Yeah, let me just add just a closing point. I do want to make on the whole thing of full expensing. It's probably the most powerful tool, whether you're buying or selling. Someone that's been in business for 40 years or so, I can tell you firsthand, it's a powerful tool. It's a job-creating tool. I did want to have you comment the other thing on making, I'd say in Florida, I was chairman of the Florida Chamber, one of the big issues there is about making the tax, whatever we do on taxes, making it permanent, so they got more certainty, they can do planning and investing in terms of going forward. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, sir. I was with a group of business leaders earlier this week, and they were telling me that they are, in fact, holding back on CapEx because they need for the tax bill to pass so that they will have certainty that the 100% expensing will come back. I think that we will see a sharp upward break in terms of CapEx as soon as we pass the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Thank you, and thanks for your leadership. We're excited you're here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doggett.
Thank you. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, certainly I can understand, Mr. Secretary, why you and the members of the Trump cabinet are so enthusiastic about this beautiful bill. It gives so much to those at the top, and of course Trump appointees are not just in the top 1%, but the top 1,000th of 1%. I applaud your personal success, but isn't it true that for you and for a number of cabinet members and other Trump appointees, simply not having your taxes restored to the level that existed when President Bush and President Obama were in office at 39.6% will provide you very substantial personal benefit?
Hey, yo, healthcare names.
Yes or no?
I just saw a couple
That
just
is not
run
a yes
across,
or
and
no
then
question,
NVO.
sir.
Remember, $80
As many
back in
people
play.
Thank you.
have
Reclaiming my
different
time.
tax-
If you can't answer,
have different tax
reclaiming my
arrangements.
time, please, sir. If
And it is shown
Mr.
that-
Chairman,
that-
I don't want my time taken if the witness will not yield.
I would recommend, Mr. Doggett, that if you asked a question, at least allow them to answer.
You can recommend it, but you're taking my time from
your
him
time is
answering the
moving,
questions.
so
Continue.
use it.
Let me say, I understand you can't answer that with a yes or no. I'm concerned about the weaponization of the Internal Revenue Tax Code by the president and your role in it. Section 7217 of the Internal Revenue Code makes it unlawful for the president and his partners like you requesting IRS to conduct or terminate an audit or other investigation of a particular taxpayer. Section 6103, as you're familiar, protects taxpayer privacy. Yet in violation of both, the president began threatening Harvard in April, and on May
Ukraine
2nd,
just said they hit a Russia gunpowder
away
plant.
Harvard's tax-exempt status.
Disney
It's
and
what they
Universal
deserve.
sue
You've
Midjourney
been part of the
over
we.
copyright
When
infringement.
You said on May 23rd that you publicly declared that you were moving forward on this, that there were a substantial number of rules that Harvard may have violated. Can you tell me, yes or no, whether you can pledge to avoid any interference in IRS audits or investigations of particular taxpayers? And if you can't answer that yes or no, just say so, and then I'll move on to the next question.
Sir, that is without question that I will follow the law.
All right, sir. Can you tell us whether, yes or no, you can report back to this committee in 30 days after investigating to assure us that there have not been any requests by
White
the
House
president,
tweet
any
on
political
GM.
appointee, or any family member of the president to direct
Keep
or
eyes on
influence
that.
the audit,
I haven't seen that
termination
yet,
of an
though.
audit or
And
investigation
then Bank of America
of any
comments coming
taxpayer
in.
or entity?
Well, Congressman, as you said, this is all
Pizza.
private matters, so it would be out of line for me to report back on any
All
of
I
this.
ask-
But I can assure you that I will follow the law and all proper procedures.
Thank you. I'm just asking you whether you can report back in 30 days whether there has been any attempt, I'm not asking for the specifics of who was involved, by the president or any of the other people I mentioned, to influence or direct any audit or investigation of a taxpayer. Can you do that, sir?
Well,
Just answer.
I can report right here. I am not in the habit of repeating private conversations, but the president and I have never had a conversation on Harvard's tax status.
So you-
I will report that right here. We don't need 30
I'm not asking
days.
just about Harvard.
We
If
don't
they can
need
pick
30
on
days.
Harvard, they can pick on anyone, and I'm just asking for a simple report on whether there
Tem
have
is
been any
below
efforts of
average.
that, whether
It's
from
not
the
even
president
expected
or
to
one of
hit the
his
10-day
associates.
average today.
And it would seem to me that
Trump
would be
says,
easy
"I
to do.
thought it was
Let
nice
me
that
move
Elon
also to the
apologized."
question of privacy as it relates to data sharing.
I don't know if he's
Do you
speaking
agree
right now.
that
It doesn't
there is
sound
no
like a true
authorization
social. He
for
might
the
be talking
IRS
somewhere.
to share tax data broadly with DOJ or federal agencies for the general purpose of data consolidation?
Oust again.
Section 6103
Yes, sir.
protects
Precisely.
taxpayers' information. We have followed all proper procedures, and including in terms of the data sharing with the Department of Homeland Security. We are allowed to share taxpayers' information for those taxpayers who are believed to be criminals or have committed a crime.
I'm asking you about DOJ and its apparent effort to have an omnibus information sharing agreement with agencies. Do you agree that you cannot share taxpayer data without statutory authorization from this Congress, and you don't have any for that purpose?
We will follow the direction of the regulations and the court, sir.
Are you sharing any taxpayer information with DOJ? For this
Elf as
omnibus
well, and yeah,
information
DYN is a
sharing
buy. Again, a
agreement
lot of
that may seem to
biotechs,
probe into the
medical,
privacy of every
this little
American,
window, they all gotta
consolidated
pop
with
there.
Social Security
And then again,
and other
aqua,
private
nuclear,
information.
all
Is
that
there
shit.
such sharing going on now, sir?
Well, first of all, I would push back on that characterization.
You can do so.
And
I just want to know if you're sharing in the
I will
time that
tell you,
remains.
and there seems to be a misunderstanding among many people on your side of the aisle on what DOJ is. DOJ employees,
I understand you had some misunderstanding about it, and Mr. Musk yourself, but let me ask you again, just simply on the question I'm asking, are you sharing any of this data with DOJ without congressional authorization?
as I said, we are following all of the laws.
Thank you. I would appreciate an answer to my question, but I will yield back since my time has expired.
Mr. Smith is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for sharing your time
Core
here
with.
today. I've not been around here as
I
long
can't
as
believe,
Mr.
dude, we're
Neal has,
60,
but I
57.
did want to bring
You
in
still got a
bit of
couple points, and it's just
historical
inching here. It's been what?
that
Maybe
I
30
think is
minutes
relevant.
within 1 point of the high.
Looking back, you know,
So
we
again,
can
just like
argue about
yesterday, it's
CBO,
slow. It could
JCT,
quickly change,
and,
but you're dealing with
it's an
that now.
imperfect system, and I think that's
Still mad
manifested
early, yo.
itself in various hits and misses on projections, whether it goes all the way back to the original parts of the cost of Medicare that was way underestimated, or whether it was the structure of a more market-based approach with Medicare Modernization Act that precedes my time here, but actually cost a lot less than was projected. You go to the receipts, post-2017 tax action, the receipts exceeded.
I'm here today to
projected.
tell a small
We
account
have
holder
an imperfect system,
that if you
but
stick
it's
with
what
the
we have.
mission,
And
eventually
I
your
think we
account
need
in a
to
day
go on
will
that.
do
Now,
what you save
take
in a
things
month
a step further.
every day.
And I remember
Get your
the
long-term and
President's
stick with
economic
it. Do
advisor,
not
Mr.
despise the
Hassett,
days of small
pointing out
beginnings.
that with COVID,
Okay?
yes, there was
Good.
bipartisan action. I'll say that a few of those components still give me heartburn, as much as an emergency that we found ourselves in. But when, at the beginning of COVID, when unemployment spiked and the GDP dipped, Congress acted. By the end of 2020, GDP was back to about even. New President Biden was advised not to spend what he insisted on spending. I would suggest they're probably grappling with going back to the Obama stimulus, and they think that the only mistake of the Obama stimulus, so-called, was it didn't spend enough money, rather than address the bureaucratic approach that, like the joke was shovel ready, maybe wasn't what it was described to be. But we have these imperfect projection systems, and yet we've got the reality of experience. And I think this is important to note, and especially on the IRS structure and the desire to spend money on more people at the IRS, because that could generate more audits and that would generate more revenue, and then we can spend that revenue that, good grief, still wasn't enough to cover what the actual IRA costs came in and came to be. So we have to deal with these realities, and it's because they're imperfect systems that we just have to acknowledge. And that's why, Mr. Secretary, I had not heard the numbers on the IRS, and especially in these efforts most recently, that we were told that if we pushed back on the number of new IRS agents and auditors, we were going to undermine the revenues, and yet a different approach that focused more on technology, because there was a willingness to focus more on technology here on this side of the dais than there was with just hiring more people that actually, even in the best of scenarios, did not come to be. Thank goodness, I might add. But we are in a situation now where in 2017, we did what was right, and I'm glad that there was bipartisan support to extend a lot of what we did in 2017 that did not have bipartisan support then. Now, that didn't pass the Senate. We are where we are, and now heading into a situation where what we have at hand with this reconciliation bill is good for workers. It's good for workers. It's good for economic expansion and encouraging investment and increasing productivity so that we can grow the economy without triggering inflation. President Biden was warned not to push more spending by Democrats, I might add. I think of Mr. Summers primarily, advising against that. Did it anyway. We are still paying the price. We're trying to dig out.
I know. I don't get why everybody is
and that's
conveniently
why we're
ignoring
doing the bill that we are.
That's the problem. That's why I don't
like
like this spending bill, but I see Donald Trump's difficulty because, like I'm telling you, bro, a lot of it is just existing commitments. And then if you want to try to get anything new, you got to give the Democrats almost $1 trillion for salt. But yeah, amen. I hope you guys hear this. It's not like this isn't not talked about. People just willfully ignore it. Shopify all day, man. That's still going. Again, Microsoft, Okla. You should know your leaders by today.
On our side, to encourage the private sector to provide more opportunity. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Truly
Secretary,
historic
thank
milestone,
you for being
EU,
here.
UK
the
political
economic
agreement.
outlook of the United States has soured a bit since President Trump assumed office. We've gone from record lows in unemployment, historic growth, and lowering inflation to unprecedented trade wars, volatile markets, and low consumer sentiment. And for the record, Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter surveys from consumers from the University of Michigan, a trade war impacting the shipping economy, and the OECD article on the downward turn in economic turn in the U.S.
Without objection.
Thank you. This is only made worse by the Republicans' big ugly bill and the administration's proposed budget. I have a few items I want to raise with you, Mr. Secretary, but given our limited time, I want to focus on the projected impact of the reconciliation legislation. Economists from the CBO, the JCT, the University of Pennsylvania, Yale University, the Committee for Responsible Budget, and the Bipartisan Policy Center.
Because again, you hear me, and I still even have Republican criticisms, which we'll talk about. But the point that sucks about all of this is when I see them complain about this topic, I know they knew it then. I'm like, wow, you guys had the ability to speak out, you just didn't want to. That's the problem. That's really, that's why it's so rich. That's why it's like, come on, how are you lecturing people on this when you literally just did the same thing, and then y'all acted like y'all were, what's her name, Sandra Bullock in that Netflix movie.
And said that you dispute these claims. I believe you're a very intelligent and very competent individual. You're a Yale graduate, an adjunct professor, served as the managing partner of the George Soros Fund Management Office in London, and led Key Square Capital Management, a global hedge fund, and you're a billionaire. So the question I have is, why is it that you seem intent on disavowing any and all expert opinions that are inconvenient to your political agenda? Unfortunately, it strikes me that you are hell-bent on ignoring the warnings of any independent expert whose opinions may not serve your goals. When you worked in finance and your analyst told you that a proposal was a bad idea, I suspect that you listened to your analysis and didn't just accept the deal because the person proposing it said they were wrong and that their deal was a good deal. That would be wrong, it would be irresponsible, and it would be dangerous. I would submit that in the position that you have now, it is even worse. It's more wrong, it's more irresponsible, and it's more dangerous. Mr. Secretary, can you point to one independent study, one study performed by an expert PhD economist who is not on the payroll of this administration, that says that this legislation will not add to our national debt?
Well, Congressman, if...
Yes or no? Can you point to one?
If we want to look at the
yes
CBO,
or no? Why didn't you ask the same shit with Biden?
Did you ask the same thing? Yes or no?
Expert
no. Yes or no?
Point to that says that this bill will not add to our national debt. Yes or no?
Yes.
There is?
Yes.
What are they?
Art Laffer.
Pardon me?
Art Laffer.
Art Laffer? Great. That I don't think that one counts. Mr. Secretary, did the 2001 Bush tax cuts add to our debt?
Sorry?
Did the 2001 Bush tax cuts add to our debt? Yes or no?
Again, Congressman,
yes or no?
I think it's important to look at framing here.
Okay, I'm reclaiming my time. It's clear that you're not going to answer the questions that are asked. And let me make it real simple for you. The Bush tax cuts added to the debt. The second round of Bush tax cuts added to our national debt. The last Trump tax cuts added to our national debt. And every expert will tell you that the proposed Trump tax cuts will also add to our
nominee
national
Brian
debt.
Bedford
That
vows
is the
to
honest
hold Boeing
answer,
accountable.
And I would have expected you could have just
Bond's
given
coming
us
down.
a yes or no.
Boeing's
on
not
whether
reacting,
or not
but kind of talking shit at a Senate
these
hearing.
tax cuts that will benefit clearly the most wealthy people, the people who don't need a tax cut in this environment, will add to our national debt. This is bad public policy. It's bad for the American taxpayers. It's bad for our economy.
Mr. Thompson,
and
we
it's
needed you 4 years
for
ago,
our
bro.
future in regard to the national
I don't disagree
debt.
with y'all. We needed y'all 4 years ago.
Next, we have the chairman.
Y'all like the people
of our
after I'm
tax
not
committee,
broke anymore.
Mr.
And you're
King.
like, oh, you
Thank you,
need
Mr.
money?
Chairman.
I'm like, I
Thank
needed you
for
4
holding
years
me.
ago, dog.
Mr. Secretary,
What do
thanks
you
for being
mean
here
now?
today.
Now we're blessed.
I,
What are you talking about? I don't need you.
We
What
get
are you
into
saying?
these back and forth.
I
and it
needed
comes
all
down to
of
who
this
struck
shit
John.
4
I think
years
both
ago,
sides of
bro.
the aisle can
Before we had
talk
to
about
pay
things
10
and
times for
policies in the
fucking
past
living
that
costs.
caused wherever
That's
we
all
are
we
today to
needed,
be
this
wherever we
talk.
are today.
With the
The
same
question
fervency
isn't
and
about the
belief.
history of how we got here. The question is, how do we
Amazing.
remedy it? How do we fix it going forward? I'm from the private sector. And I really do believe before anybody should ever serve in public office, they should have been in the private sector and worked where they got paid on commission only and had lost their job at
I
least
like this guy.
once and had faced an unbelievable task of trying to keep your business open when there was no revenue coming in. So
He
I
said you
really,
gotta
I don't
work
want to grill
commission
you
only
on all
before
these
going
things of
into
asking you a
Congress.
question and not allowing you to
I
answer
like it.
because that seems to become the thing. I'd rather go back to consistency.
Oh, J&J
and
getting
certainty.
murked. Good call.
The hardest thing for anybody in the
Yo,
private sector
J&J.
is trying to figure out what the next
They're down by
administration
0.1. They have hard options. I remember
happen
yesterday.
at midterms
There's some
and
cheap ones,
whether
though.
I'm going to make an investment
They've
or not
popped
gonna
about
make an investment, because that can
50%,
change
though.
overnight.
Be careful.
I get that.
On the
I
ask.
get that, and I'm sitting here now.
Yeah, I don't know the
trying to figure
headline.
out-
It's
no
probably at one
wonder
of the events.
Hardworking American
And then
taxpayers
Lutnick
have
comment,
lost faith
China
in the way
was
we
slow
operate.
with rare
But I
earth.
just
U.S.
wanna
did
ask you this because I
countermeasures.
think it's
China
really
will
critical. So I have
approve all
kind of a
applications
little
for
bit of a football
magnets.
background. I look at this. We're in the fourth quarter now. It's a 2-minute warning.
Yeah,
no
she has to
timeouts.
approve final wording. And then
I
again,
want you to
J&J
share
dumping
with
right
us,
now.
what
Most
could happen.
likely a
Forget the
conference
Potomac
headline.
amnesia about who's responsible for it. Let's go to what actually is going to happen if this bill doesn't get passed. How is it going to affect hardworking American taxpayers?
Congressman, good to see you again.
Good to see
It
you,
is
sir.
what we call in economics a sudden stop. It would be cataclysmic. It would be the largest tax hike in history. It would be a disaster for businesses, for working Americans, and for our status in the world.
And then that bond move is interesting because we've been in melt-up
have
mode, but
this happen,
yeah, that's
we
starting
would
to break
see
trend here. And then we're
increases
20 minutes
in
shy,
taxes
25
on
from Euro
thousands of
close.
dollars of working Americans. We would see business contract, and we would see a substantial increase in the unemployment rate.
So as you look at what's taking place right now, and I think there's always the back and forth about do these tariffs work, do they not work? Just from a standpoint, your background is incredible for you to be in this position today. So I want to thank you for doing that because you stepped out of a pretty comfortable life where people weren't firing questions at you and not allowing you to answer them. Just going forward, and you told people just now what's going to happen if we don't get this passed. So what is it that, in addition to what we could do, that we're not already doing?
Congressman, it is certainty and permanence. As we have seen, the corporate tax rate is permanent. That is,
Stripe to
we're not
acquire
arguing
crypto
on that
wallet
here.
provider, Privy.
Businesses have great certainty. Households do not. Small businesses do not. And this administration, myself especially, given my small town roots, they are laser focused that Main Street can do well here. And Main Street is a series of small business owners.
Yeah, Circle's
work
ripping. The
every
options
week
don't look.
to make
You can't
payroll.
scam them. Remember, we scammed them the other
average,
time, but it's
9
hard now.
employees, family owned, and this would be cataclysmic for them.
NNE's the
other
only
side,
one that hasn't hit a
having
52-week high
permits, being
out of
able
all of
to
the like
invest,
main nuclear plays.
being able to hire more workers,
And then Warby, that one's ripping.
being able to expand. They
Okay.
will lead a Main Street resurgence. We will also see a manufacturing resurgence. Approximately 9% of Americans are now engaged in the manufacturing sector. History has shown us that wage growth occurs more readily in the manufacturing sector for working class Americans than in the service
Yeah, that
sector.
bond auction is going to be
So,
big today.
combination
The one
of
tomorrow is
small
even bigger,
business
but
and manufacturing,
yeah, it's there.
along
So
with
just be mindful.
President
We still, and then we have
Trump's
NVIDIA.
agenda for
This Bessent
tax
thing hasn't really
incentives,
produced
tax
much.
on overtime,
And then you
the-
just got a Lutnick comment.
a tax cut for seniors. And
Oh,
the
BTU
ability
starting to go.
buy a new American
Oh, hell
car
yeah, there you
to
go.
deduct The interest
The plays haven't moved from
will
yet all
solve
day
this
today. They didn't get
horrendous
cheaper. They didn't get expensive. Oh, no, now they moved. They just
way to
jacked
think
up the
about it,
ask on those.
Congressman, we are dealing
Yeah,
with
ask
two
just
things
went up by
here.
20,
We're dealing
30%.
with affordability,
BTU.
And we are
I think there's
dealing with
news.
inflation.
So again, we had this watch list. We were hella
Affordability
early
is
on
the
this.
stock of
You know the vibe.
inflation.
You know the
we
truth.
are working to pull that down. That can be pulled down.
BTU
two ways.
removing
Through
Biden era
price
gas
levels
regulations.
or increased
Yeah,
real
saddled them with
wages.
1.3 billion
I
in
think
cost.
We can do both.
So yeah,
The
we
real
were able
fill-up
to
here
see through
would
that
be
yesterday.
increased real wages
Now let's just
for
get
working
paid. It's
Americans.
only up 20,
On the
30%.
other side, we've just saw
Yeah, QuantumScape pop in.
yet another fantastic inflation number.
Lutnick, you could
Much
say
of that
China
due to
tariff level
increase in
won't
energy
change from here.
Thank you for
Market's
being here again.
overreacting to that.
You just stepped
You,
out of
you
your
already
cyber
knew
life,
that.
which is very
And again, it's a low
comfortable. To
one.
step
I think
into this
market's
arena,
tweaking
I
on that
can't say how much I
statement.
appreciate it.
But
Thank you
it's just
so
going to
much
be
for
a little
being
blip.
with us today and
Unless
your
other
service.
stuff really
Appreciate it.
moves.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Mr.
so you got that Lutnick comment on
Thank you,
tariffs
Mr.
not
Chairman.
changing.
And,
Then
thank
you get a
Mr.
Raul.
Secretary
I
for
think it's reacting to
coming
that, but
before the,
I think it's going to be short-lived.
committee as
Unless
well.
Microsoft and all the other shit flips.
It's pretty clear. And listen, you know,
Hershey's on the
who needs to
high.
get into
Apple's flipping.
arguments when you need
Meta
answers?
and Nvidia. Watch out. Big
And,
tech's going down here. It could even be
you
like
can see the
pre-Euro sell.
frustration on this side. I appreciate your loyalty to the president and understanding your responsibility, but it seems pretty clear that in the time that we're given to ask a question, etc., the reason that people are seeking yes and no answers is because of the time that's allotted. It has nothing to do with you personally or whatever. You're obviously very bright and intelligent.
No, this is why we don't believe you.
So,
Y'all
Mr.
just
Secretary,
liars.
would you agree that
Okay, you're selling off.
I give great credit to
Fentanyl,
Representative Massey, who stood
Halt
on the
is
floor
not on the table.
and
So
addressed
again, it's still the
the,
same thing.
Congress
I think
during the
market's over.
debate
You know
on
all
this
this
bill.
info. So
And he
hear me
never-
out. Again, I think market could react, but you knew this from, I think, June 2nd or even prior, that we knew they were going to do after the first time you heard from China. Remember the Switzerland stuff? He said the exact same thing. So I do think market is reacting to it. I don't think the market's ignoring it, but I just don't know how. I think it'll be short-lived, but that is coming out now.
Congress can do funny math, fantasy math if it wants, but bond investors don't. This week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit
It's
rating.
not. It's bullshit.
And the bond investors
Again,
who
half of the
buy
basis
and
point is
finance
coming
our
from
debt
market
demanded higher interest
participants.
rates
And I will show you
on a
my next
10-year
piece
note,
of evidence.
20-year note, and
You
30-year
motherfuckers.
note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying
Why they hang on
$16,000
me, boy?
interest
What's up?
for paying $16,000 of interest
Whoa, Baba
alone
and
per
Nvidia?
U.S. family.
All right.
What are we telling them instead
Yeah,
of
Nvidia's
taking
tweaking
care
now.
of that problem? We
We are
gonna
not
give
going to
them
give
a
China
tax
our
break.
best chips,
The frustration
says
you hear
Lutnick.
up here,
That's the headline.
of course, is that there's denial that tax breaks don't add to the national debt. Was Moody's wrong? Was Representative Massey's assessment wrong?
Yes.
I can tell you that clearly.
You guys don't
Representative
understand. They
Massey-
don't understand the bond market. I mean, again, there's people adding to it, but let me show you the next piece of evidence. Because even in their projections, this is a Democrat projection for a new bill. It's foolish. Look, all of this, how to save $12 trillion. Go to the bottom. Savings from interest, 1.9 trillion. So almost 20% of any, you can make this whole plan, tax it. That comes down to fucking Powell. Powell controls 20% of the extra or less debt. Powell could control half, if not more, of this whole entire tax bill that Donald Trump is trying to guarantee. So they're saying the bond market, and again, I do think the bond market is telling you about that. I told you about it to a degree, but the bond market is also saying it's not just, the bond market doesn't point a finger just at Donald Trump. It's actually pointing a finger right back at Powell too. And it's saying, well, again, where is Elizabeth Warren? We need you, Elizabeth. Why did you want to cut rates before anything? And now when it could actually help you with the deficit and spending, nowhere to be found. But again, that's 1.9 trillion over 10 years. It's actually crazy, but you're paying $1 trillion a year in interest. Jerome Powell can lower that number whenever he wants. Again, meanwhile, you just experienced the third or fourth global amount of rate cuts ever. Switzerland is about to have negative interest rates. You see it, so then you have Powell willingly paying all of this interest. And again, that's 20% of most projections when you want to break down any sort of debt bill or anything, and Apple is flushing. So those Lutnick comments really hit, surprisingly, but again, we already bounced halfway back. Kind of interesting, the breakdown. But yeah, man, kind of wild, bro. Powell can change it. That's what I'm saying, but his path signals things to the bond market, and him not changing it, there's a cost. So when, yes, the bond market is reacting to the spending. I told you guys that months ago. Remember, I was like, yeah, it does have to do with the tariffs, but I was like, no, bro, there's also the deficit. I've been telling you this spending bill months in advance. So I'm not denying what the bond market is there, but I'm not going to let these people frame it incorrectly and try to say that it's bond investors scared. They're scared of the cumulative situation, and you have to factor in Powell. It's not as if the bond market is like, oh, yeah, okay, we're only worried about this. They're saying we're worried about this, and we know that Powell is hell-bent on not cutting rates. And now if you're already at this level of fees on interest and it's this high, that has a unsustainable negative effect. So yes, Trump's policy can also have that, but whether you have his policy or not, Powell's plan alone is unsustainable. So there you go. And again, I'm not putting I don't care which way it goes, but it's ironic that we're hearing so much of this and then just conveniently leaving out some of the critical details.
There's things we can do policy-wise, message-wise, product.
Yeah, watch the video in Apple. Again, those Bessent or Lutnick comments are moving things.
And bills and being
Lutnick says use plain parts ethane as bargaining tools.
On the bonds, moving out in the curve.
And talking
past Treasury secretaries, we've done presentations on everything from Professor Schiller's Trill's idea, where it's a bond, but it actually
it doesn't make sense.
Slight attachment to
it does, but it doesn't.
As an equity interest in the U.S.
I didn't hear one of these congressmen say shit when Janet Yellen fucked up everybody and was like, yo, let's sell a bunch of high interest debt on the long end and the short end, and let's fuck up the terming of all of this. No one said anything. That had a bigger consequence than most stuff in the last 6 months.
And this is a intellectual conflict many of us in Congress have. The substantial portion of growth of debt is demographics. We don't like to tell people the truth, but we have a dramatic shortage of young people.
Bitch, you don't like to tell people the truth.
Today, compared to 20 years ago, we have double the number of people 65.
You said we don't like to tell people the truth. That's our problem with you, sir.
It's 20 years ago. It's demographics. And we're going to try to make demographics partisan because that's what we do. How does someone like me work with your team to actually give you product ideas, messaging to the markets and liquidity that going long on the curve is stable, and we're going to be there to protect our full faith and credit.
Congressman, you raise a very important issue, and what you're talking about is something called the dependency ratio. The U.S. is the only major industrialized economy where that ratio is roughly stable. It is in slight decline. Many other economies, Italy, Japan in particular, they are seeing the dependency ratio blow out, and hence their productive capability. We would welcome the opportunity to engage with you and your staff on any ideas that you may have.
Bro, Louise,
right
good
now,
work.
We are committed
good work,
to
bro. You're a killer. That's what I'm talking about. We don't get that house one way or another. Look at that attitude.
Issuance,
that attitude is all you need, dog. You see what I'm saying? I'm give it to you. I'm willing. Are you willing? The harvest is plenty. Oh, they don't feel you, dog.
We always see
Celestica.
It's this industrial
they're up 5-2.
revolution. It's that industrial revolution. I'm not sure we're on.
Yeah, we saw Elf earlier.
4th or 5th, but I do believe
it's weird because that's kind of like an
industrial revolution, an AI
China
revolution
play to its own degree.
That may lead to a
LEA pop.
breakthrough.
Yo, LEA, that's big.
Very important.
Mr. Secretary,
2%. Oh, it has to go a little bit more. There's no options. They already jacked up the chain. I'm on July though.
And that's actually it's
There's
a
one
side
cheap one. They're already up over
conversation
100%. I'll leave that for you.
And
It hasn't hit
statistical
3% yet.
information of how much of that's going to be labor substitute by automation, and therefore we may not get the same wage growth in the academic literature. But
2.2.
That's going to.
All right, Chad
eking
took
out
it.
a little bit.
Damn, you took 20 of them?
My great
See, you're
interest
greedy.
is
That one might not hit now.
I don't believe many of us on this committee have spent enough.
Oh, they
time,
double
whether
it. Go
be
make it free.
Democrat in the White
Everyone's
House,
rushing to it.
Republican on debt.
What are you gonna do?
In fact, we on this committee have the responsibility to work with you in Treasury to have as much stability.
Abbott as well.
In that model, because today we borrow what, about $72,000 a second, outside the math for extraordinary measures.
I haven't done it by second, but I think
yeah,
on a daily basis. But Congressman, I can tell you, the thing that would give us the greatest debt stability is the increasing the debt ceiling.
No,
because
those hit. They're still holding.
That is a cataclysmic
You got
outcome
5
that
cents.
we will never allow to
So
happen.
extra.
Mr. Secretary,
If you got the
absolutely
early
agree.
fills, you killed it, but it was hard to get filled on that.
Visibility is
I didn't
important.
take that play though.
But even your own numbers, in 9 years,
Again, it
we
didn't hit
borrow about
3%.
$100,000 a second.
That's what you
Solely
need that
driven
trigger.
by demographics, healthcare, Medicare, and interest. I beg of you, it's hard to do in front of these microphones because it's uncomfortable to talk about, but it's math, and it's the reality of what we are as people. We need to work together to provide visibility to these debt markets. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you. I now recognize Mr. Davis from Illinois.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Chairman,
Follow me on Instagram at the Trading
Secretary.
Fraternity.
Today's Secretary Bessent
God bless America.
appears here to praise the Republican One Big Beautiful Bill. That is the most cruel, draconian, inhumane legislation that I've voted on since I've been here. Government, I seriously believe, should help people and not hurt them. I reject this bill that makes poor people poorer, sick people sicker, and hungry people hungrier. I reject this bill that rips health care from 16 million Americans, with over 498,000 Illinoisans expected to lose their health insurance, including 102,000 children and 27,000 seniors in my district alone. I reject this bill that threatens my constituent Deborah and her 2 children, whom she adopted from foster care. The picture behind me shows Deborah's children, who are medically fragile and rely solely on Medicaid for their health care. I reject this bill that will close hospitals in my district and kick people out of their nursing homes, not only in my district, but across the country, especially in urban inner city communities and rural communities for sure. I reject this bill that explodes poverty and suffering while giving wealthy trillions in tax cuts. And I reject this bill's irresponsible explosion of the deficit that triggers statutory cuts to critical programs supporting children and families. These pay-go reductions would eliminate funding for the maternal, infant, and early childhood home visiting program, known as MACV.
U.S. tariffs, something with what, Nick? China won't change again. They're just reiterating it.
And child development. It would eliminate the guaranteed funding for the Mary Lee Allen Promoting Safe and Stable Families program that we know helps prevent child maltreatment.
Okay, that Lear didn't hit.
And strengthen
those plays got slashed. Went back
to
where they started.
The social services.
That's why I say don't go too greedy on those. Whoever grabbed those 20, that sucks.
Substantial investment in child.
That's why I
care,
wait for that 3%
child
signal.
welfare.
That
and
usually makes it
adult
easier.
Protective services. These egregious cuts alone will cost Illinoisans over $72 million and hurt Illinois children, seniors, and families. I reject this bill that gives tax cuts to the wealthy, paid for by denying and depriving low income, poor people, senior citizens, sick people, unhealthy people, the health care, food assistance.
You guys are going to bring up poor and affected communities. This is why I said that step up in basis.
This bill,
y'all worried about a fucking rich people getting a tax cut when you were supposed to tax the billionaires 4 years ago. Remember that? And none of it happened? Okay. So now hear me out. Remember what I was just telling you with the step up basis. Every single Democrat plan, they want to get rid of it. So you're telling me you don't want to give a tax cut to quote unquote rich people and overtime, but you're cool with when somebody loses somebody in their family, and then when it's time to have whatever's left over, you want to tax the shit out of them, regardless of if they have money or not. And you're saying it's going to hurt poor communities when people are going through death, the last thing they're thinking about is, oh yeah, I'm going to get taxed on all of this and probably have nothing to hold. So yeah, it's weird.
I would argue, Mr. Secretary, that President Trump got elected last November on two issues, fixing the unmitigated disaster at our southern border and fixing the economy. And obviously you play a big role in fixing the economy and working with us on that. Go back a year ago.
Maybe some nat gas
we had
companies,
high inflation,
but I haven't touched
high
the commodity
interest
in a long
rates,
time.
Unaffordable energy costs, supply chain frustrations. And that factored into people going to the polls and wanting a change on the economy. And as we think about the bill that we've put together, the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's lots of things in this bill that help this economy. But fundamental to that is making permanent things like 199A, bonus depreciation, research and development tax credit, the affordable housing
at the end of the day,
unleashing American energy, all included in this bill.
They wanted to stop tariffs, they used judges.
I think
they
we
wanted to stop
predicate
this,
this
you
bill
saw.
on
You
how
see
do
how
we
creative
have
they get when they want
predictability
something.
and certainty
So,
long-term in
it's
this
just all
economy.
farce.
And those investments
saying,
that are
there's
made by
some
small,
proposals
medium,
that
and
will
large companies,
eventually affect
whether you're
some of y'all, and
a plumber in
you won't
Peoria,
think about it
Illinois,
till
or
it
you're a
happens,
Fortune
and you're like,
100
well, what the
company,
fuck?
you want
I really don't like
predictability
the
and
step-up
certainty.
basis
And it's
thing,
been alluded to
I hear
earlier.
these
If we
people
do
talk
nothing,
about
and this bill
helping
doesn't pass,
people
you're
who
gonna
need
have
it,
$4.5
and
trillion
immigrants and all of that,
tax
and they
increases.
all rally
If you think
behind
there's
something that
uncertainty in the
really
economy
screws
now,
over
wait until that
the
happens.
normal person.
And so the other, I think, observation that's been made is there's a lot of money and resources sitting on the sidelines waiting to be invested. But we need that predictability and certainty. And I would argue we do that in this bill. I wanted to ask you if you can comment on what this bill will do to the economy and on predictability
Cigna dropping
certainty.
and Navitas.
Good, Congressman. Thank you for that. And
Lear is coming back up.
Would also
Cigna
like to
looked
talk
bigger,
about what this bill
but
will
then you
not
got
do
another
to
red
the
here.
economy.
Bond's back to open.
Because what we saw.
But again,
in the
spies,
tax
dude, you're
bill
one
of
candle away from being back at open.
Under the Biden administration,
crazy.
which
Everything's
I
green
believe
though.
Was immoral. Was rampant inflation, which is the best way to steal from working Americans. And the basket of goods and services that working Americans require had a substantially higher inflation rate than the 21%
Babanulo riot starting to
reported
pick up.
by
Yeah,
the
we got
Bureau
no
of
juice out of
Statistics.
anything in China
So,
today.
In excess of 30% of purchasing power was stolen from working families. We had, in the summer of 2024, we had a record amount of food bank usage in the United States of America at the same time that the previous administration's tax bill, we had a record number of trips to Europe. And that is not an America we want. Record trips to Europe, record food bank usage. So anyone who voted for that
you
tax
hear that?
bill, that was the outcome. What we are doing is trying to get back, as you
That's what they're
said,
saying. That's what
to
inflation
President
did.
Trump's
It made poor people
private sector
poorer,
job
and
growth
these rich
creation.
motherfuckers just did whatever
And
they
the
wanted.
tax bill
They never
will
felt a fucking ounce
incentivize
of it.
Private sector growth. Equally important, this administration's economic plan is a three-legged stool. It is trade, it is taxes, and it is deregulation. And what we saw under the Biden administration that created the great inflation was we saw the impetus in spending as the government flooded the zone, but we saw substantial regulatory increase, so a demand shock was met with supply constraints. What we are doing with the help of this committee and congressmen like you, we are creating a private sector demand shock that is going to be met with a
I don't know the news on airlines. They just started moving even
So
yesterday. I think it was tied to oil, but I didn't see
2018
anything
and
on it today.
2019, we will have strong growth and it will be non-inflationary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I yield back.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What time is
Mr.
it?
Secretary,
been going
there
on for
was
an
no
hour and a
tax
half
bill
already.
passed during the Biden administration, and I know that because I served on this committee during that administration. So I just wanted to clarify that. And in the interest of time, because our time here is limited, I'm going to ask you to please limit your answers to yes or no questions, and I'm going to jump straight into those questions. Mr. Secretary, do you still believe that the president's tariffs are going to be a one-time price adjustment for American families?
If prices go up, they will be one time.
Okay, well, unfortunately, you appear to be talking out of both sides of your mouth because you yourself have admitted after conversations with Walmart that some tariff costs are going to get passed on to consumers. And in fact, we've already seen that prices are rising on many everyday goods.
Oh, yeah, Ms.
No,
Sanchez.
Congresswoman,
Please
today,
don't interrupt me.
we had
The time is mine. The time is mine. Please don't interrupt me. I will ask you questions and I will grant you an opportunity to answer them, but please don't interrupt me during my time.
With pleasure.
Okay, I know I'm a woman, but please try to limit yourself to
Yeah,
answering
dude,
my questions. No, I'm sorry.
Fuck that. We're not gonna listen to this shit. I'll listen to it when she's fucking done. We're not gonna tolerate this bullshit, dude. That's it. You're talking out of your ass. That's why you're getting that reaction. Trying to make somebody trying to actually work, you're getting in the way, okay? That's very, very simple. Don't tell anybody. Again, inflation has been going down for a fucking year. This is core inflation. What item do you pay more for today? Is there any item you're paying more money for that last year you were paying less for? Right now? Is ridiculous, dude. That's all of this shit. That's why it's like, again, I agree that Donald Trump, I told you a month ago, it's a big bill, man. And I don't agree with spending and all of that, but it's like, dude, what is like, why are they acting so delusional? So, yeah, bro. I'm even everybody in the audience was just like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, dude, we care. And we want real changes, and you could have competing thoughts. I disagree with the spending. I think it's too much money, but I still agree and support Donald Trump, and I think they have a better intention than not, and I do think a lot of other problems have originated from the last couple of years. Doesn't mean we can't make it better. We could have competing thoughts at the same time. But this is like, yeah, we've heard all of these before, but just, I don't want you guys to hear this, because this is what I've spent a lot of time on, again, from end of last year to now, is showing you with the actual objective evidence that it has been almost a year and you haven't seen the tariff increase. And that's okay. I'm not saying that tariffs won't have an impact. Maybe we'll see it later. Maybe it'll happen in another way. But this idea that tariffs cause huge inflation is kind of nonsense. It has not, it's been a year of talking about this, like no exaggeration. And again, that lady saying that on the day that once again inflation comes in lower than expected and energy is down, there's like I'm saying, there's not much that you're paying more for. Beer, I don't know, maybe. But other than that, it's a very, very odd dynamic. No, Lutnick had a different interview. Lutnick, this is the execution of the deal signed in Geneva. Is he on Bloomberg? That's funny. Bloomberg's playing the lady now. I'll play it after when she's done. Once you complain about, why don't you answer the message? I'm just not going to listen. I'll listen afterwards. That's it. But a lot of that shit was nonsense. That sucks. Bessent, they like him, but then they do give him a hard time. Have I seen the price of cigarettes? I have not. I'm not a cigarette shopper. So yeah, I guess not. I've noticed gas come down. I go to any grocery store, it's packed with items and nothing is crazy. I mean, again, you're not overpaying for general consumer goods. You could even get the fucking Nintendo Switch still at retail. Like, what are we saying right now? It's just a whole different environment comparatively. But it's just like, dude, inflation has objectively gone down. Again, the highest increase in inflation on today's CPI was owner's equivalent of rent. That means if you asked motherfuckers what they thought they could rent their house for. So, yeah, it's interesting. Cigna is still dropping, though. Transparent. Hey, man, it's good. And that's why, too, some of you, here's the deal. When I go on these rants and whatever, just, like, pay attention. And, like, you don't have to get too involved. And whatever you think, don't be quick to judge me. Because at the end of the day, I'm paying attention. And I care about it, and I care about you guys, and I share it with you. And like I'm saying, don't get brainwashed into thinking that we're not looking at all sides. And I say that, and now I get to flex because with my whole new, like, I support Donald Trump thing and, like, calling out this bullshit, a lot of people like to call me biased. But we are not biased. If I was biased, I would be losing money. Because then I would be full-blown Donald Trump. I would have been, oh, no, buy the Russell, buy only, again. And if I was full-blown Democrat, I wouldn't have bought the dip. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. There's a reason why I'm sharing this all with you. You don't have to get caught up in it. You need to understand it. Again, understanding consequences and what that leads to. That's how we're going to make money and protect yourself. So if you like or don't like these conversations, that's going to be yours. But don't let it cloud the fact that we're using this to make money. We're taking this info to apply it to our financial plan for our future. Again, that's why I keep saying this spending bill, and I'm monitoring it very closely, and I have been for the last month. This is going to be the thing that tells us what to do. This is going to be the thing that gets there. And like I'm saying, if you get caught up in all of this nonsense and they're tricking you and telling you it's this when it's really that, even the Republicans are like, no, it's low when it's really not. The whole point is, if you fall for the fucking propaganda, you're going to underperform. Let's be real. Because then if you believe everything that come out of Trump, you're going to invest differently and vice versa. So that's why I'm saying, don't be too certain. Find the balance. I know there's a lot of politics. We all have our own personal beliefs, but I really encourage all of you, why are you here? We got to make that bag, and you could read between the lines and position ourselves regardless of what you agree or disagree with when it's all said and done. So keep that in mind. Okay? All right.
Percent on average tax increase for all Americans. Is that true or false?
True.
They'll lose about $5,000, $6,000. The median household income, they'll lose about $5,000, $6,000 of their family budget. True or false?
At least that amount.
Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Did the top 10%, did the top 1% pay a greater share of taxes after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
A much higher percentage, sir.
Did the top 1% that paid 38% of the entire cost of the federal government actually, after TCJA, pay a higher percentage of the cost of the federal government, going from 38% to 45%? True or false?
Yes, sir. 7% more.
And the top 10% was paying 70%. Top 10% earners in this country pay 70% of the freight of the federal government. After the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they are now paying 75%. Is that true or false?
You could stop opposing Trump because
So,
it doesn't increase spending.
Another
I
false
disagree.
claim during the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passage.
As a generation,
was that this
we are
was a
getting
tax
way
cut
too
for
comfortable
rich
with
and for
multi-trillion dollar
corporations.
deficits.
Is it true or false that the Washington
I think
Post
they
gave the
could do better.
Democrats 4 Pinocchios, saying 3 out
Again,
of
it's what I said a
$4
month ago.
in the tax cuts benefited individuals, not corporations?
I don't read the Washington Post.
Well, they gave 4 Pinocchios. Even the Washington Post could not tolerate that misleading and false claim. The bottom 10% wages grew twice as fast as the top 10. True or false after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
Yes, sir. And household net worth increased substantially faster for the bottom 50%.
True or false? Did the poverty rate sink to an all-time record low after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
Yes, sir.
Did we have the lowest unemployment rate among minorities and women after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
Yes, sir.
How can these things be true and what they're saying true, Mr. Secretary?
I will leave that to
the American people.
To the American
because
people.
This is empirical data.
Who had a referendum on November 5th.
They sure did. And this is empirical data.
Futu, yo, it's
These
the
are
only China
verifiable
name I've
facts.
seen run right now.
Now, let's move to this
Futu.
notion. I got a minute left. That
Yo, see if
somehow
China starts
we've
moving.
increased the national debt in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Forget for a minute that they, under their control, full Democrat control, added $8 trillion, and under President Biden, $8 trillion to the national debt. 40-year inflation, soaring interest, all because of their failed economic policies, paying people not to work, expanding welfare without work requirements, taxes, barrage of regulation, record regulatory cost on small businesses, and the list goes on, okay? And we've all suffered, especially working people. As you said, it was a regressive tax, that 20+% increase in the cost of essential goods and services. But if you take CBO's static scores, the cost of the bill is about $4.16 trillion. If you take the $1.7 trillion in savings, the largest spending reduction in the history of the United States by twofold, and you put a conservative growth rate, because CBO's growth rate is 1.8 in their baseline. That 1.8 is based on the last 4 years of failed economic policies and unbridled spending. It's not based on the policies embedded in the One Big Beautiful
like
Bill
a
Act.
China broker.
President Trump grew the GDP by 1 percentage point from 1.8 to 2.8. Even Joe Biden had an annual average of 2.7. We put 2.6 in there as an assumption, which yields $2.6 trillion. The net effect is we reduced the deficit, and then some.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I appreciate you being here. God bless America and go West Texas.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Ms. Sewell for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Treasurer, Secretary of the Treasury. I actually, with all due respect, only get 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask, my constituents have sent me a list of questions that they just want yes or no answers to, and out of respect for the time and the fact that they want some clarity, I hope that you'll just say yes or no. The first question is, will the big, beautiful bill add to the national debt? Yes or no? Is that a yes or a no? That's a no? Yes?
Sorry?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
It remains to be seen.
Well, I mean, look, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office official score of this bill says that it increases the federal deficit by $2.4 trillion.
Sorry to interrupt, Congresswoman. The CBO also said the tariff income over the 10-year window would be $2.8 trillion.
You know,
so that would be
you want to talk about
$400 billion.
dynamics, scoring, and all that
There's
stuff.
nothing dynamic about that. You're quoting the CBO. I'm quoting the CBO. So let's level set.
We can level set, but the reality is that I have constituents back home who are really scared. They're scared that prices have gone up. This administration has promised that prices will go down. That's absolutely has not occurred for them. And every time they hear the word tariff, they think of the fact that it's another tax on them that will be passed on to them for goods and services. At any rate, not only did the CBOs say that this bill will increase the deficit by $2.4 trillion. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget said at $2.5 trillion. The Yale Budget Lab, $2.4 trillion. The point I'm trying to make is that you will add to the national debt over the span of this time. The second question that they wanted me to ask is, will all Americans have a net benefit from this beautiful big bill?
It is it's difficult to...
Yes or no?
Again, it's impossible to say all Americans. It is ridiculous for me to give an answer for 337 million.
Well, I can
people.
tell you what a lot of
I can say the balance of probability is that Americans will get a substantial increase, especially if you're referring to working people in your district.
Yep.
They should do very well, as they did in 2018 and 2019.
Tables tell us? The distribution to help, the numbers don't lie. The average tax cut in 2027 for people in this bill making $1 million is about $81,500. So someone who makes $1 million, and no one in my district makes $1 million, to my knowledge, will get a tax increase, will get a tax benefit of $81,000. That's $223 a day. Now, the average tax rate in 2027 for people making under $50,000, which in my district is about 63% of the people that I represent, they will only get a tax break or tax increase of $265, which is 73 cents per day.
Listen, I will be fair. The sentiment of what they are saying is correct, because this is the option nobody has talked about. You should give the tax cut that Donald Trump is doing. I think they should give it to everybody making less than $250,000. And then just don't give it to the rich people. But what do you notice? The Republicans are not willing to do that. You see the dilemma? So right now, it's a tax cut for all. That's what they're trying to push. Democrats are like, why the fuck are you giving it to rich people? And they're making it this like straw man argument. But in reality, that's why I was saying just when you were like, oh, stop criticizing Trump, it doesn't increase spending. Well, I'm like, well, we can make it better. You see what I'm saying? And even if it is the rich people, it's like there is a way, but no one's willing to do that. And that is the answer. If you wanted it would save maybe $1 trillion, I think. That's the thing, though. Then you're going to say, well, how much do you get then, and what's the benefit? Just like I was showing you the other estimates, and I'm like, why would you get rid of step-up basis to save $500 billion in 10 years? Why would you ruin all of those families, hurt immigrants, and all that? Doesn't make sense, right? So it's like, if you go and just only give the tax cut to the lower income, deny the people making $250,000, $500,000 and above, they don't get shit. How much is it? That could be an answer. But then again, is it worth it? Is it going to be a material savings? And it should be, but yeah, but that is the weird elephant in the room and it's like, I agree with their sentiment and they're bringing up how everybody benefits off of it. But it is, I think, challenging because most of the people who are probably going to be supporting it, again, they want some sort of incentive. But then again, I think you could give them that incentive because you guys are like, well, they create business. Okay, give them the tax rate based on business production or based on job creation, or make it a payroll tax, something like that, or a payroll tax cut. So there's just many ways, but this is what they're discussing. And I hope you see it's not just like, it's not, okay, tax or don't tax. There's various levels to it.
Imprecise.
Well, sir, I just think that it is an abomination that we are actually giving bigger tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans who don't need a tax cut.
Gentleman's time
Meanwhile, we're taking away food assistance and health care from people who desperately need it.
Gentlewoman's time
Thank you, and I yield back.
I now recognize Mr. Estes for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Secretary Bessent. Thank you for being here. I know you have been very busy in the last 2 days, and appreciate you coming back with struggling through the jet lag that you're obviously feeling. I just want to, I have some remarks here. I just want to throw out a couple of comments that have been talked about. I mean, and I believe you mentioned this earlier, is that after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the top 1% went from paying only 40% of the tax burden to now paying over 46% of the tax burden. So as we've put in this good Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the top 1% are actually paying more. And I know a lot of questions from the other side of the aisle talked a lot about the deficit. And as you mentioned in your earlier remarks, the country's been fairly consistent in maintaining tax revenue at about a 17 to 18% of GDP. Unfortunately, the problem we're dealing with now is spending has ballooned up to roughly 23% or 24% of GDP, which is creating that problem that we have an imbalance. So I really I have several things I want to cover. First, I want to talk a little bit about Section 899. It's a common sense provision that's based on two bills that Chairman Smith and I introduced. It's not new. It's not revenge, as some in the media have been proclaiming and wailing about the last few weeks. It's a reasonable approach to make sure that foreign countries don't pilfer the U.S. Treasury with UTPRs or DSTs.
And the fact is, if we do nothing, we're ceding our tax authority to other countries. And the JCT is warning us that we will lose $122
Ally and him's running Spy V, bro. We're right back to
over the next
open.
10 years.
I love
Ways
it.
and Means could have responded
Not
with
really,
much more
but the long term.
severity in terms of the bill that we looked at. We took a measured approach that maintains our tax sovereignty and that either discourages our allies from moving forward with these discriminatory taxes, or will raise our tax revenues by $116 billion over the next 10 years. I'd like to submit, Mr. Chairman, for the record, an op-ed from Bloomberg that covered this topic. Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. Secretary Bessent, are the fears that Wall Street has over the $8.99 grounded in truth, and what's behind the stir, and why wasn't there outcry from the Wall Street and economists during the last administration working with OECD in a manner that put America last?
Sir, I believe that there is quite a bit of
899.
misinformation on 899.
Democrats are going to
And
use
I
899
also
in 4
believe
years.
That if businesses
That's what that
came
Democrat
back
put. He
with
said
a deep
tax
breath,
foreign shit. It's Section
and
899.
Much of the pushback is coming from overseas companies, and overseas.
I mean, you're
companies
going
are
down. You have
worried
Germany saying
that
more sanctions
their
on Russia.
countries may
But yeah,
try
you're
to
slowly
usurp
slipping,
US
and then you're
authority.
15 minutes off Euro
So
close.
If a European country, they tried to unfairly tax a U.S. company or take money away from the U.S. Treasury, then it would fall perhaps on that corporate. So they should look to their own capitals. This is a fiscal bill, not a revenge bill.
Right, I agree with that. I think that some of these companies need to be lobbying their own government instead of trying to lobby the
100%, Congressman.
administration. Something else that I've been pushing over the last 6 years has been research and development expensing. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit this Washington Examiner op-ed titled "We're a Nation of Innovators, but our tax code no longer encourages it."
Without objection, so ordered.
Immediate expensing for research and development is a jobs provision, with 3/4 of the R&D expending spent on wages and salaries. Also has broad bipartisan support. I believe we need to provide businesses with certainty by making immediate write-off permanent, because it takes longer than 4 years to actually develop more new methods and technologies. Secretary, can you help explain why it's critical for our country to return to immediate R&D expensing, hopefully on a permanent basis as we finish this bill?
Sir, we are the undisputed technological leader in the world, from AI to life sciences. And one of the reasons for that has been the expensing of R&D. And we are pushing very hard to make this the best location for whether it is high-tech investing, whether it is biomedicine, or any other, the manufacturing process that we want to bring back. Part of the problem, I believe, is that the manufacturing process has been separated from the R&D process. So we need to have both of them here sitting side by side in the United States.
Yes, thank you. And there's so many other provisions I could do, but I'm out of time. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Delbene is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. Mr. Secretary, do you support the government having a consolidated database containing Americans' sensitive financial health and personal information?
I support protecting Americans.
Do you support the consolidated database?
I support protecting Americans' personal
information
based on current law.
I think it's very concerning that you're not able to say no. This is not a partisan question. In fact, just last week, Republican Representative Warren Davidson responded to reports that DOJ is merging huge sets of data from across federal agencies into a centralized repository. He said it's dangerous when you start combining all those data points on an individual into one database. It's a power that history says will eventually be abused, end quote. Well, I could not agree more, and would also add that this kind of database would be a goldmine for malicious actors who are eager to exploit Americans' sensitive data. And Mr. Secretary, Section 6103 sets forth the confidentiality and disclosure rules for tax returns and tax information. Just because DOJ wants to compile people's sensitive information into one place doesn't mean the confidentiality rules go away. Is that correct?
We adhere to 6103.
So it seems like, that should be a simple one too. We should absolutely be clear that the confidentiality rules did not go away. In fact, earlier in this hearing, you asserted that the Treasury Department is following, I think you said, the proper provisions within the Privacy Act, all proper provisions within the Privacy Act and Section 6103. So my question for you is,
just make sure that's not another LMT thing.
I mean, especially
again, LMT
knowing
got
that the
clapped on the
president
F-35 shit
illegally
today.
fired 18 inspectors general, including Acting Treasury IG Sherba. How do we know? I'm sorry, you saying that isn't good enough. We're an oversight body. How do we know?
Again, I will say that we are following the law, and that.
But we need. That's not good enough, Mr. Secretary. You should be coming. We should have officials within Treasury coming. We should, and this is a statement to my colleagues on the other.
I'm here today.
But you're not answering how we know that. You're just saying we are.
So
then let's bring people who are building a database. Let's go through the details of exactly what you are doing with that data, what protections are in place. We should have hearings doing that. In fact, we requested hearings on this from our partners on the other side of the aisle, refused to bring people from DOJ, et cetera, into this committee so we can be sure that a consolidated database.
A judge in the Southern District of New York has ruled that all of our protocols are.
Mr. Secretary, we are a co-equal branch of government. We are the oversight body. I'm answering, I asked that question because it is part of my job not to have you just say it's okay. Then let's look at it. I think because we actually have the authority to get that detail. We are oversight. We are not just here to have you say, don't worry about it. We are here to get detail. And I want you to be clear that it helps. This is a risk to the American people. This is sensitive personal information. There is no clarity on how this is being protected. Early on in this administration, people were given access to information with no controls. We have not had folks come into hearings. That's not good enough, Mr. Secretary, and I'm supportive of making sure that we are using technology in smart ways. I'm also very supportive of making sure that we are protecting people's personal information and we are following the law. 6103 is clear, and there is no, and now this consolidation, there's no approval on how this consolidation takes place. And you can't even be clear to me that you're about where you stand in terms of making that happening. So I don't think we're getting the information.
Maybe it did not filter up to you.
Oh no, you got to verify that one. Someone in the chat posted
it several weeks ago.
Then let's bring folks. I want to ask the questions. Frankly, it's not about whether or not you had a staff level briefing. Let's bring experts to answer detailed questions in this body so that we get those answers.
I mean,
I have a technology background. I'm happy to have those detailed conversations of exactly who's given access, how that access is given, and how we are making sure that information is protected. We absolutely have to make sure that there are no violations, that there are the right protocols put in place. We have no data to say that. We just have, you're saying, just trust me, it's okay. That's not good enough. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I now recognize Mr. Smucker for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being with us. And congratulations on what appears to be a great deal with China potentially, and a reset of our relationship, and a deal that'll be great for American business.
It's an excellent start, Congressman, but a start.
Yeah, I'm really continue to be proud of the work that we've done with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the impact that it had on my constituents.
Is that Mr. Smucker?
Average families in my district saw an increase of about $6,000
very unique last
in their
name.
wages in the years following that. Inflation was low.
And then bonds came back up on all this. Tim's still ripping.
The previous Trump administration with what we've
seen.
seen.
Hex sees Trump defense strategy complete by late summer.
And so Grateful to have the opportunity
Vance
to
and
work
Wiles
with you to
urge Musk to
extend
end
those
feud with
benefits
Trump.
once again to every American. And we're hearing a lot from the other side here today on things that they're falsehoods about the bill, things that are not in this bill. And I just want to remind our listeners what Democrats are voting for by voting against this bill. They will be voting for a vote against this bill is a vote for.
I mean, my thing today is that, and I've talked a lot more today.
A tax increase that
just
will
that,
affect average
and this is what I said a month ago
households
at the
at
beginning of
every
May.
Tax bracket level
Is that
They're
these
voting
people have just
for
like this is
a
getting
decrease,
ridiculous
in
now.
fact, a 50%
They are like trying to
decrease in
get,
the child
and I
tax
don't want
credit,
you
which is
guys
so important,
delusional.
provides
If you want to
important
stay
relief,
delusional, be my guest.
every
But I
American
said it even a
family.
month ago. I was
They're
showing you
voting
data.
for
Yo,
allowing Medicaid
Beijing
dollars
put 6-month
to
limit
go to
on
people
ease
who
of
are
rare
here in the
import
country
license.
illegally
Negotiators
at the
agree to
expense of
restore
American
export
citizens.
controls.
1.4 million
6-month
of them.
ease on rare earth
And
gives
they are
Beijing
voting
continued
to allow
lever.
Medicaid
Concessions are
dollars
part of trade
that are
framework.
intended for people who really need.
Hold on, there's a Wall Street Journal exclusive. They're pretty much pumping the Lutnick thing, and they're giving a new info. The info is a 6-month limit on ease of rare export purchases. Very interesting. So yeah, that's coming out now. I don't know if the market might take it good or bad, but hard to read. Again, it's everything Lutnick said this morning, the plain parts, all of that. But now we know 6 month is what if Xi Jinping and Trump both agree, it's a 6-month agreement for rare earths. That is new information.
Re-energize American manufacturing. All of the things Democrats will be voting against by voting against this bill.
Yes, sir.
So I want to again say that we're doing this is going to be beneficial to every American, and we're also doing it in a responsible way by finding savings that will drive more efficiencies in some of these programs, but will ensure that we will not add to the debt, assuming we meet very, I think, conservative estimates on growth. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir. And to go back to the CBO, the CBO produces a black box.
Yeah,
And
food too.
that
MP
black
is
box
going up on
says
that.
The growth is 1.7 or 1.8%, whether we...
Yeah, it's hitting
make
other wires
the
now. Beijing put
TCJA
6-month limit
permanent
on ease
and
of rare earth
continue-
license.
And that permanence
That is
causes
coming out now.
stimulus, or, as you said, whether we have the
Re-hitting
largest
again.
tax cut in history, which would be cataclysmic, obviously, but it also assumes no change in growth. So obviously, both cannot be true.
Exactly right. So we're going to do this in a fiscal responsible way. Now, I do have one question for you, and I only have a minute left. One of the things that I was impressed with when during your confirmation hearings and leading up to your appointment as secretary was your 333 plan.
They all got like a pop.
And
Even the
particularly
market
in the
didn't
short
move,
amount
though.
of time I have, you
Again,
have
it's the
a
same
stated
info, we
goal
just
at
know
that
the time now.
at least of
And
getting
then again, they
to,
mentioned auto
the
parts.
deficit
Lutnick said the
being
same thing, auto
3%
parts and plain
of,
parts.
GDP, which I know how much you're concerned
Food
about
too
the
keeps
debt.
going,
The
nothing
Democrats
else in
today
China,
are
though.
raising concerns about the debt. I share those concerns. I think that's a
Actually,
great
that one
goal.
woke up.
Do you still hope to achieve that 3% debt to GDP, deficit to GDP by the end of Trump's term?
Yes, sir. It's a deficit to GDP, which the other side of the aisle doesn't seem to want to talk about, or the total debt to GDP.
It's hard to
which
wrap your head
Secretary
around,
Yellen
Scott.
and I agree
I had
on.
trouble with it.
It is those two
That's why
numbers
I had
that
sticker
matter.
shock,
The
and I still
absolute
do.
number,
Although I
daunting,
agree with your sentiment,
those
Mr.
two
Bessent, it's a
ratios
little
are
bit,
much
it's
more
different.
important. And I said that we would like to
Meta
have
users can
a
now
three
preset
in
AI
front
video
of the
editing
deficit
prompts
GDP
to
by
transform your
2028
outfit,
in the
lighting,
President
and
Trump's
more.
term, which is the long-term
What?
average.
And I think this sets
Gentleman's time has
it
expired.
sets the basis for being
What?
able to achieve that. But there's going to be a lot more work to do. and I
Bro,
look forward
Meta
to,
is coming
working
out with
you
an
to
Instagram.
achieve that goal. Thank you.
You can
Gentleman's time has
edit your
expired. I now
outfit
recognize
with
Ms. Chu
AI.
for 5 minutes.
And the
Secretary
lighting
Bessent,
and the
my
location.
constituents are sick with worry about losing their health care coverage. The nonpartisan
Isn't that crazy?
Congressional Budget Office just determined that more people
I feel bad.
will
All
lose their
y'all guys
coverage.
who are single,
16 million
y'all are fucked. You know
people
that?
Will lose their
The catfish
coverage as a
epidemic is
result
just
of
gonna get worse,
this
bro.
Big ugly
So
bill,
good luck,
which
you
will be
guys.
the
That's why I
largest
just seek
loss
the Lord and
of
get a crown
healthcare
of honor. You
coverage
know what I'm saying?
for people in American history. Now, Republicans are saying that this will all be accomplished by cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse. But we should not be fooled. This is accomplished by 30 different measures, including increasing the amount of red tape that people will have to go through just to stay on Medicaid and on the Affordable Care Act, or the ACA. In addition, the CBO says that this bill will cost Medicare over $500 billion. I think of the many grandmothers and grandfathers who need nursing facilities as they face various illnesses like dementia or Alzheimer's. In my district, 62% of them rely on Medicaid to get any kind of care. But this bill requires all kinds of new paperwork to stay on these programs, including paperwork for seniors seeking to dually enroll in Medicaid and Medicare. Where will these seniors go if they
Futu
lose
still,
their
Tim,
Medicaid
a lot of
because
the
they
earlier
didn't file
movers
yet
still doing their
another
thing.
form,
Bonds are up,
all
and then
while having
SPY, it is
dementia?
below VWAP, and now back to that level.
This is a life or death situation. But I guess Republicans believe, as Senator Jody Ernst said, well, we're all going to have to die. And then there is the ACA. I remember what it was like before the ACA, where people could not get health insurance if they had a pre-existing condition, like everyday conditions like asthma or even pregnancy. The ACA provided tremendous relief to millions. But this big ugly bill will require even more red tape to stay on the ACA. It demands that 2.5 million people, like gig workers, like Uber drivers, who don't even know what they'll earn in a week accurately, estimate their income for the next year. It requires people to re-enroll year after year rather than having an automatic enrollment, which is not required by any health insurance or Medicare. It reduces enrollment periods so it can cut people off the program. And it takes away the premium tax credits that helped millions of families afford health coverage. And that is why at the hearing for this bill, I introduced an amendment to strike the provisions that undermine the coverage of the ACA. Every single Republican on this committee voted no. So Secretary Bessent, I'm asking you a question in which I only want a yes or no answer. How would you have voted on my amendment to protect the ACA and keep millions on their health insurance?
No.
Okay, that makes it clear. And Secretary Bessent, I'd like to address the reason that 16 million people are going to lose their health care coverage. It's so that millionaires and billionaires can get big tax giveaways and become even richer.
Look at 30-second, 1 minute velocity, pretty high on the low ticker.
Just this week found that if this bill becomes law, the richest 5% of taxpayers in this country will get a bigger tax cut than the bottom 80% of taxpayers combined. To put dollar amounts on it, someone earning $1 million will get a tax giveaway of $81,500 in just 1 year, while someone earning less than $50,000 can only expect $265 in 1 year, which is only 73 cents a day. That millionaire will get a tax cut in 1 day that's almost as big as what the middle-class person will get over the entire year. And of course, this does not account for the burden of paying more for basic necessities because of Trump's tariffs, nor does it account for the loss of life-saving benefits like Medicaid coverage or SNAP food assistance. When the University of Pennsylvania included the benefit cuts into their analysis, they found that the poorest 20% of households in this country will lose
yeah, you're coming down here. I mean, the
$30,000
latest
over their
thing was
lifetime
the
if this bill
China
gets signed
6-month
into law.
delay thing.
It's
So you got the
quite
headline, it
literally a
reiterated
reverse
the other Latinx
Robin
stuff, and
Hood
then yeah.
scheme taking from the
But now
poor
you're
and
back to the
giving
lower
to the
end. You were just at
ultra-rich.
open, and now you're
That's
at the
why I
lower
had
end
an
from
amendment
the
that
morning.
said there should not be tax giveaways for those earning more than $10 million per year. And so, Secretary Bessent, I only want a yes or no answer. Would you have voted yes or no on my amendment?
Again, no.
I yield back.
Mr. Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's good to see you again. Thanks for sitting here. Your predecessor, Janet
Bro,
Yellen,
equal weight
pushed
just
Congress
dumped.
for the last 4 years
So
to adopt
equal
the
weight's doing a lot
OECD
worse,
global
even though you
tax
have a
deal.
couple big tech, and
I'm
then look,
grateful that you
Mexico.
and the administration
I don't
are
like that.
working
The
to
currencies.
stop this.
So
There's a lot
Mexico,
going
even though
on
we
in
did
that
a deal
space,
with
and as
them.
the current global tax deal is formulated,
Yeah, the
US
euro's up a
multinationals
decent amount,
are
too.
disadvantaged in two critical ways. First, they face two layers of minimum taxes, the existing robust US system and the emerging OECD system. And two,
Well,
their
it's still
traditional
early. I mean,
income-based
we're
tax
30 minutes
incentives
off a
face
euro
stricter
close. So we had
scrutiny
good
against
inflation
corporate welfare
data. Again,
regimes
we've
in
been up
China
6
and
of the
EU.
last 7 days.
The global tax deal
Even if it did come down, I don't think it would be a big sell-off.
Race
But
for government handouts,
yeah, it's still
cash
early,
subsidies,
and
refundable
it's all
tax
within
credits.
this like quarter
The
point.
system rewards political
maybe
connections and
0.3.
authoritarian regimes over innovation. And Mr. Secretary, as you know, countries are pressuring the U.S. to sign on to the global tax deal and want to push subsidies out of the income tax system into the hands of bureaucrats, distorting markets, picking winners and losers, and leaving their taxpayers footing the bill for political pet projects with dismal economic results. If other nations want to tie their economies in knots with that nonsense, that's their funeral. The U.S. should not play the role of global nanny, dictating domestic policy to sovereign states. Countries around the world are free to determine a domestic policy that meets their political and economic demands, but not at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer and our great U.S. companies. My concern, Mr. Secretary, is that there is an on and off switch associated with the implementation of this global tax deal. A lot of uncertainty of what's happening after your time in office and the President's time in office. The tax sovereignty of this nation is under attack. The last administration gave away U.S. leverage trying to sell the jurisdiction and purview of this committee to the OECD in Paris. We must not let that happen. The global tax deal isn't just a friendly suggestion.
It's not that
a
bad.
loaded
Like I'm
gun
saying, though, equal
aimed
weight's
at countries
lower,
that
even though
don't
you got
join
some
the
big
cabal.
techs that are just drilling.
I, for one, don't want the U.S. to be looking at the end of their loaded gun under the next administration or the one after that. Mr. Secretary, will you commit to working with us to put a nail in this coffin on the global tax deal once and for all?
My staff met with the OECD in Paris.
Everything's kind of draining.
just
It's
last
hard to
week,
see what's
and
up.
we are pushing back and
Zelensky
working toward a solution
urges
as soon as
$30 price cap
Thank you for your
for
work on
Russian
that. And
oil
one
to
last thing,
pressure Moscow.
The current tax code has certainly
just
been
sign a
biased
fucking
against
peace deal?
investments and structures, and I've been working on this issue for a number of years since I've been on the Ways and Means, including a bill I introduced that implements a neutral cost recovery for structures. While we should continue to do more in this space to drive down the cost of investment in structures, and I know that's part of the big plan to get manufacturing back here quickly, I'm happy that we're moving in this right direction. And long depreciation schedules, as you know and as you've worked on, erode the value of deductions, hindering growth on domestic manufacturing. The provision that we included in the big one beautiful bill that allowed full expensing of factories coupled with restoration of 100% expensing for equipment and machinery will be crucial for the President Trump's agenda to boost American manufacturing. We're hearing a lot of great things about that. Mr. Secretary, I want to reiterate my thanks, certainly the Republican Party's thanks for your immense support in this provision to implement full expensing of factories. And I'd like to yield the rest of my time to you to just talk about why that is so important.
Low ticker is almost fully gassed.
To get it done.
They're all like the same. Everything. This is a broad dump right now. And then again, you got Zelensky saying to lower the price cap to $30. Again, Bitcoin even dropped. You're back to the low of the day. All gaps have been filled, except for like the other days. But
it puts us
yeah,
on an even playing field with the countries.
I think you're at the low of the morning. Yeah, so get below here. This is when Trump. I think that'll be your low of the day if it really goes. But again, we still got another like 3-4 hours, guys. But I don't know why. There was a China headline, and then you also had the Lutnick details. It's all just been kind of dumping from there. But this is only about 0.3, so it's very small. It looks big because that's all you have. But yeah,
in terms of after-tax return on capital. After-tax return on capital is what drives this economy, it is what drives productivity, and it is what makes the United States the greatest economy in the world.
Mr. Secretary, again, thank you for being here. Appreciate your words, and I yield back.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to yield 5 seconds to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. I would ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the nonpartisan policy research Yale Budget Lab analysis, which shows that $3,000 cut to household income because of Trump's tariffs.
Without objection.
Thank you. I yield back to Ms. Moore.
The Yale Budget Lab is staffed by
Thank you. This is my time,
former
sir.
Biden officials.
Where's the gavel, Mr. Chairman? He's taking up my time.
Proceed, the clock's moving, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. I want to join my colleagues in a bipartisan
She's
basis
like me when I like scream and go crazy, and then I go back to the normal voice.
And actually, Mr. Chairman, we're
that's
alive
great.
today.
See, I love it. I love it when I do that. She just did.
And you know, even if it weren't
Okay,
his
and then
birthday,
good to see you.
I would have to have thought of Charlie Rangel at this moment, and the last real close personal conversation that I had with him when I considered your testimony here today, Mr. Secretary, and some of the other sorts of inquiries and comments of my colleagues here when they talked about the averages. The average taxpayer is going to receive this or that. It's sort of like the example that you almost gave here. One taxpayer gets $1 million tax refund, another one gets a $1 tax refund, and then the average tax refund is $500,050. I had a Jesuit education, so we learned about the tyranny of averages. You ignore the distribution and outliers. You mask variations and inequalities. It's asymmetrically distributed. It's skewed. Because you have heard my colleagues talk about the real impact. Somebody under $50,000 a year is going to get $265 versus others that get millions. That is not a question. That was my comment. Okay, so
yes
you
or no?
and Doge were focused on eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. So let me just sort of outline some of the waste, fraud, and abuse that you found, and tell me yes or no, was this what you found? $641 billion in subsidies for the ACA, $764 billion in Medicaid cuts, $300 billion in SNAP cuts, and then triggering $500 billion in Medicare cuts. Was that all waste, fraud, and abuse? Yes or no?
Again, ma'am, it's very, very difficult to give a
those are the cuts. Okay, I'll move on. You're not going to answer.
Very
what I'd like to know is the $2.4 billion in debt and the tax increases.
It should
of
be done soon, bro. It's been 2 hours.
Is that not spending? Are tax cuts spending and creating, especially not just adding to the debt, but the interest rates on the debt? Is that or is that not spending? Yes or no? Are tax cuts? If I give you a tax cut, am I spending out of the Treasury to do that? Yes or no?
Not if we,
Mr. Secretary.
Not if we create more income.
Okay,
than the nature of
we're
the
talking about a gambler's fallacy with projecting growth that's never been proven by anybody, anything. So I will move on because I see my time is waning. Let me ask you some more
time is there?
questions.
I kind of need a poop.
Do you think that
McKesson.
a problem we have in our tax code is that we have $700 billion a year in a tax gap because the very wealthy are evading illegally their tax responsibilities? Is that or is that not waste, fraud, and abuse? Would you characterize that as waste, fraud, and abuse?
Represent my.
I'm just a simple question. Is that waste, fraud, and abuse?
My priorities are collection, privacy, and customer
Okay,
service.
so but you
at the
didn't. We're not collecting that, and you cut 31% of the budget from the IRS that would have actually, processed these claims.
The largest budget cut was in the IT department that began the modernization in 1990.
Okay, the true cost of economic security has determined that 50% of Americans
Okay, I'm gonna go poop,
are
bro.
financially insecure. 50% of Americans So do you think that any of them are going to suffer from the cuts in Medicaid, SNAP, and ACA not to have these resources available to them? Yes or no?
I believe that they will be better
off
under
without these
under
resources.
this tax bill, just as they were under President Trump's last term, as opposed to the ravages of inflation under President Biden's term.
Well, let me just ask this. Why is this bill designed to take away some of the benefits that you claim people are going to have? They expire, like the senior tax credit expires, all of these things that these families are supposed to get. If you're so into uplifting their needs, why do they expire?
No tax on tips.
No tax on tips expires.
Sorry?
It expires. And it's not really a decrease on tax on tips.
If you would like to join me and making it permanent and have your Democratic
you're
colleagues
the secretary. You're the secretary, sir. You wrote the budget.
We would welcome you to join us.
Excuse me?
We would welcome you to join us.
I'm ready to join you right now. Are you going to accept an amendment?
Time has expired, Ms. Moore, by over a minute. I was very generous, but way too
Mr. Chairman, you are always very generous. Let's be clear. I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. The chair would like to inform the members that the committee will stand in recess for 10 minutes following Ms. Miller's time. Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm from West Virginia, and I'm going to give you a little Southern love. I graduated from Columbia College. My husband graduated from the Citadel. So we've got some roots in common there. Thank you for being here today. You know, after 4 years of inflation and unmonitored spending and non-existent trade negotiations under the previous administration, I'm thrilled to have you and President Trump back at the helm to deliver on America First policies. Having businessmen rather than career politicians running the country is already making a huge difference. Ways and Means Republicans have spent the better part of 2 years gearing up to reauthorize the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and put more pro-working class tax policies in place. This committee passed the most significant tax bill in modern history last month, and the House followed suit. It is now time for the Senate to do their job and get this big, beautiful bill to the President's desk. I want to talk about 1099-K. One of my top priorities in the tax package is to repeal the Democrats' absurd 1099-K threshold. Under the Biden administration, Democrats changed the time-tested standard of $20,000 in 200 transactions to $600 when determining whether a taxpayer receives a 1099-K or not. Before this committee, your predecessor acknowledged that this new threshold would be difficult to administer and to lead to the taxpayers' confusion. So instead of working with us to fix it, the Biden Treasury unconstitutionally delayed implementation and then changed the threshold to try and ease the taxpayers' confusion in the election year. Unfortunately, there are still millions more 1099-K forms that were sent out, and Republicans have worked to restore the 1099-K threshold to the time-tested standard of $20,000 in 200 transactions by including my Saving Gig Economy Taxpayer Act in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Can you shed some light on how this policy and others being produced from your department will make life easier for our taxpayers?
Representative, thank you for discussing these very important issues. As I said, I believe the underappreciated part of President Trump's economic plan is the deregulation. And what you were describing, the cutting back on paperwork, that putting thresholds at proper level is indeed deregulation, lower paperwork. And I think you correctly pointed out that the previous administration, I'm not sure that anyone ever signed the front of a paycheck or the back of a paycheck. I think they mostly received direct deposit from the US government because they're always government employees. So if you have never made payroll, if you are not processing paperwork, you don't understand the costs that are inherent in this. If you are a small business person, if you are someone with a lawn care business, if you are someone, as you said, we have a completely new economy today with the gig economy. whether it is Uber drivers, delivery people, the contract workers who work from home, in programming fields. So I think that it was tone deaf, completely tone deaf, for the nature of the new economy.
You are so right. And I also want to voice my support for the ongoing trade negotiations that the President and you are working on. For too long, our trusted trade partners have quietly taken advantage of the United States. And I'm a firm believer that trade truly is the great equalizer and a powerful tool to bring the world together. However, sometimes the tool can be used effectively and not always with fairness. I'm particularly interested in the domestic steel industry. From West Virginia, we've been producing quality steel for decades, and some in my hometown in Huntington and my district is currently ramping up more steel production even further with new mills in Mason County. So I'm supportive of the Section 232 tariffs on steel that the President has pursued, and I'm eager to work together with the administration to ensure that a level playing field is also applied to the U.S.-UK economic prosperity deal. The UK has a history of subsidizing its steel industry, which in turn often undercuts our domestic steel producers. Can you commit to continuing working on securing fairness for our domestic steel industry across trade deals?
Representative Miller, I had the privilege of being with the President at the U.S. Steel factory in Pittsburgh a week ago Friday. And I can tell you that the President's commitment to the U.S. steel industry is unwavering, that we are bringing back domestic production, and what we have seen, and one of the previous questions about is China a reliable partner, what we have seen during COVID since then is that there are strategic industries in the United States where we must have an industrial base. And I would put steel in the top 3.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. The committee will stand in recess for exactly 10 minutes.
That's it. No, I can't reclaim I'm eating my time. I'm literally pooping. Well, that was abrupt. I'm still here, guys. I'm a little occupied. Give me a second, but wow. That was exhausting. Not the poop, listening to that brainwash. Holy fuck. That's why I had to shit. It literally made me shit. Hearing that brainwash made me nauseous and I had to take a dump. You realize that? That's crazy. I'm not even making that up. That's real, bro. That was so much nausea, I had to shit. That's crazy. Yeah, bro. My goodness. Did y'all hear that? Yeah, bro. I thought you could hear me. I was saying that brainwash was so... It was just too much. I had to make... It literally made me take a dump, bro. I know. I know, but well, welcome back. They went on it's gonna come back. That's the crazy part. That's why I'm like, what do you mean recess? It's been 2.5 hours. So I'm like, wait, you guys are gonna come back? Oh man. Well, long story short, that bill is very important. I don't know how many times I could remind you in how many ways, but again, we're waiting till July 4th. All of these, even though that did seem a little pointless, just remember, we want info. We want clues to see if they're going to go through with this same bill or if there's going to be a new one. And depending on what we get, that will determine a lot, I believe. So we will find out. So Chadadonia, welcome back, though. It's 9:30. So we had a lot of moves. Again, you had Lutnick comments, and Wall Street Journal reiterated them. China's doing a 6-month delay on the rare earths, and then we also heard they got to finalize it. Trump made the comment in the morning. That's kind of where we're trading at now. We literally just got back to the Trump-China zone comments. That's pretty much the range you traded in from pre-market if you're taking a look at the screen. Netflix ripping. But then, yeah, this was the CPI. So remember, today was another day of good data. And that's why I was saying, just like, I don't even know if those motherfuckers look at the CPI. Because how many of them were talking about inflation going up? And it's like, dude, it has been like 12 months of that data going up, not doing what they've said. So, yeah. But Chatadonia, another beautiful day for the long term. The last headline was that Wall Street Journal stuff on China. Yeah, a lot of weird runners. Again, our small caps still did their thing. That house play. Again, Oklo, LAXR, and Tesla. Lazar. Oh, another one. I think LAZR I'm going to go with. Yeah. Laser. So remember, Oust had one too. That's already up one. I mean, hey, if you could get a cheap one, I'm down, bro. Did I get a cheap one? I got a cheap one. All right, well, we'll see. That's what happened with Oust. Keep it small. You could get a $3 one. Not a recommendation. But, yeah. Lazar. Les effets. Ah oui. Oh oui. Aussi. Laser. Les effets. I think the stock did, but it hasn't gone past 3%. Ay. Yeah, Elon doesn't like laser or LiDAR. And then remember when we did Oust? Oust was a very similar one at first. I don't know if they do LiDAR. Hertz? You guys were talking about that earlier. What was the other one? Oklo. That was the other one today. Doesn't the Waymo use LiDAR? Waymo's just cameras and everything. Yeah. Oust was this morning. Oust, again, we first got Oust on our radar. I think it was PNC when he first brought up the Tesla thing a couple weeks ago. And then today we had more news. But yeah, you've heard a lot more about LiDAR and Tesla as of late. But I don't know if it has legs. Like, I don't know if Elon likes it. Because any of his past comments have been against LiDAR. NVIDIA. Netflix and SPY's coming back to wherever that headline was. Just like the other days, bro. This one looks a little bit more, but it's all within 0.3, 0.4. And you're spending hours to practically go nowhere. Ta-da. Waymo is LiDAR. Fed preferred inflation gauge likely rose in May. Goldman. Well, that's like 10 months. We've done everything but look at the data. They're like, this one came in low, but the next one. The next one. Not this one. The next one. I know, but the next one. All right, bro. All right, SPY almost have VWAP Palo Alto popping up a little bit. So you are chilling out. You're 1 hour past Euro close. So yeah, lot. LiDARs cost more? Well, we'll see. None of those plays moved. Shit ton of option activity. They did not even go up a penny. None of them. They actually, the ones in the middle went down. Am I holding my silver plays? It shouldn't matter, right? So you're asking me if I'm holding, but like, why does it matter? So if you have an idea in play, make your decision regardless of what I'm doing. So that's a question I'm not going to answer. But have a plan regardless and think about what we talked about when we first made the play, what we were looking for, all of that. Abivar? L3 Harris on the high. And then McDonald's now too. Kind of out of nowhere, McDonald's, it's a couple of pennies. FDA approves expanded Abivi Glepivir Perbrivitizavir, first and only treatment for people with acute hepatitis C. Let's see if it moves up on it. Who else? Merck had the other approval the other day. And then again, XLV Biotechs, they've done pretty good today, all things considered. All right, there's Laser now on the high. None of them moved. The ones near the money are getting up a little bit. Again, everything except for the near the money ones, but those are practically break even since the first pop, and now it's 5%. Laser's up. There's a report. They're saying they spotted Teslas with laser LiDAR products. Illinois plumbing exam, feeling confident. Wow. That's big, bro. You know, dude, the plumbing industry is booming up. I love it, baby. God bless you. All right, bro, they just smashed a bunch more options on laser, but it's not moving. It's actually kind of funny. Yeah, I just watched 2,000 options go through. The contracts haven't moved. And then as it's going higher, the near the monies are coming down. Okay, now they're raising the asks a little bit. Okay, bids have rose. Jensen, I don't know. Jensen in Paris. LHX and RTX. That's another defense name. Again, L3 and RTX on the high. It's only for testing. It will never be on the cars. That makes sense. Because we were just saying how, you know, Elon, he's had a lot of statements on that back and forth. Okay, the laser options are starting to move now. It was weird, though. That extra 3% didn't touch anything. But now as it comes, it moves up when the stock goes down and vice versa. Results come. Well, good, man. You did good. That's a good industry. I wish you the best. And worst case, you do it again if it doesn't work out. But I think you're on the right track. You've been running your own plumbing business for a year. How is it? Is it as good as people say, bro? I'm telling you, people have been going ape shit over plumbing, even private equity. Palantir, $2 wick. You got a Starbucks on the high. Yeah, Palantir just wicked up and came down. And laser's coming down, but the options actually move. But then you might not get the bid. That's crazy. A shit ton of options came in. Oh shit, are they back? I left it on? Oh,
Committee
fuck.
will come to order.
Damn it.
We'll continue with questioning.
No, fuck. I thought I turned it off and I would have forgot about it. Damn it.
I'm sorry,
All right.
but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. Those were the words of your former White House colleague and good friend, Elon Musk. This spending bill contains the largest increase in debt ceiling in U.S. history. It is the debt slavery bill. A new spending bill should be drafted that doesn't massively grow the deficit and
EU
increase the debt
proposes
ceiling
sanctioning
by
two
$5
small
trillion.
China banks for Russia trade.
Why do you believe Mr. Musk is right or wrong?
You'd have to ask Mr. Musk.
Well, take the substance of what he said. Does it not add trillions of dollars, your bill, to the deficit and debt?
It's not my belief that it does. It may be his. He could speak for himself.
But of course, it's not just Mr. Musk. It is the Congressional Budget Office. It is conservative-leaning groups like Tax Foundation, Cato, left-leaning groups, and nonpartisan groups like CBO and JCT. So this bill has actually united the left, the right, and the center, all saying it massively increases deficit and debt. But they're all wrong and you're right?
Congressman, I think that there are a range of outcomes that I think that many do not include the pro-growth measures, just as they were wrong with the original TCJA, and that has proven to be a resounding success. Just as I don't know if you were here to vote for the IRA, the CBO scoring on that, it has been 3 to 4 times more expensive.
So it's curious to me because you spent decades as an executive at George Soros's hedge fund, being very successful, making billions of dollars. Back then, you would always rail against deficit and debt. What's happened?
Again, that it is smart spending. That what are we spending for? Are we
tax cuts that mostly go to billionaires such as yourself? While throwing 16 million people off their health care coverage.
Well, I would dispute that 16 million. I think you're conflating a lot of numbers.
No, it's the, excuse me, reclaiming my time. Those aren't my numbers, just to be clear. As you know, it's the Congressional Budget Office projection.
I think you're adding up a lot of numbers that shouldn't be added.
Excuse me, I am adding 2 specific numbers. The cuts CBO found coming to Medicaid. No, if we're entitled to our own opinions, but not our own facts and not our own numbers. The CBO shows that 10.9 million will lose their health care coverage from the Medicaid cuts, and another 5.1 million will lose their health care coverage due to the ACA cuts. 10.9 plus 5.1 is 16 million.
So you are adding numbers. 1.4 million.
Yes, correctly.
Do you support Medicaid for illegal aliens?
I am asking the questions, not you. Although you'll be happy to know that in my Commonwealth, home state, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, actually they check your citizenship status before you can enroll in Medicaid. But I understand why you're wanting to divert and change the subject. Let me move, since we've taken up already most of my time. The World Bank yesterday had a shocking growth projection. They slashed their growth projection for the United States by upwards of 40%. I'm just curious, do you agree or do you think they're wrong as well? Because they specifically cited the trade uncertainty caused by your administration, the administration that you serve as Secretary of the Treasury, as being the primary reason why they've had to slash their growth projection to the lowest since 2008.
Congressman, you kindly cited the success that I may or may not have had in my previous career, but I could tell you I would not have had it if I followed World Bank projections.
So it is interesting that you believe
Banger.
all of these groups are wrong, from your former colleague Elon Musk, to left-leaning groups, to right-leaning groups, to center groups, to the World Bank. Everything is going hunky-dory. The reality is, I can see why you would have that opinion. You, as a billionaire, will reap the rewards of this tax cut, while 16 million Americans will lose their health coverage. That is the sad reality of the situation.
We could look at who would be most harmed if these tax cuts expire.
Well, you'll be happy to know that on this Democratic side of the dais, through an 18-hour markup, every single Democratic member voted to extend the tax cuts for everyone making under $1 billion. I see my time has expired. I yield back.
Dr. Murphy.
Thank you, Secretary, for coming, and I apologize for the bellicose manner in which you're being treated. I think if we all want respectful parlay and we actually want to learn things, we do it respectfully. You know, I'm just going to take a side. I am a physician in healthcare. I always want everybody to be able to access healthcare. But if I can say 3 words: illegal, ineligible, and able. So let's go to the illegal part first. The last party let in anywhere between 13 and 20 million people in this country illegally, and now they're placing their healthcare burden on the rest of the American country. So let's talk about the illegals, providing healthcare for illegals. By the way, those aren't American citizens. 2, ineligible. Last administration did not allow states to audit their Medicaid rolls. Guess what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to say, hey, you're still fit eligibility, you're an impoverished child, you're a pregnant woman, you're a disabled person, you're an impoverished senior citizen, you are eligible. But if you're not, you are not eligible for Medicaid. Period. Able-bodied. Who can be against able-bodied individuals working to get health care? I mean, my gosh. So I'm hearing this ridiculous statistic of 16 million people who should not be eligible, who are not eligible. It is just embarrassing every time they bring this thing up. So anyway, I do want to get back to the fact that our nation now, and this is blamed on Republicans and Democrats, has gone far too long as far as where our economy is. We become a service economy, we become a government employment economy. We make some things, we assemble other things, but we don't manufacture things. We've talked about this. I look at this at what's happened in North Carolina, the drying up of cities, especially in the East. I want to talk a little bit about tariffs, and this is a difficult discussion. I'm hearing more and more from manufacturers in North Carolina that the tariffs in the short term are harming them. Specifically, tariffs on inputs used in manufacturing, driving up costs and making products uncompetitive when exporting to third country markets. These export markets are highly competitive, and U.S. companies have to compete with the EU, with China, other countries to be able to offer their products cheaper. Who can offer their products cheaper than U.S.? I really just would like to know how we're going to navigate this. I really believe our tariff policy was necessary. You can only affect economic policy by one of two ways: militarily, which no one wants, or by tariffs. And to get our country reversed back on a path it should be, we have to do this. But help me understand how the U.S. is going to help our companies in this difficult time remain their competitiveness.
Well, Congressman, as I discussed earlier, the most powerful thing we're going to do is give them great certainty and permanence in this tax bill. We will also allow 100% expensing, both for the new equipment and for factory structures, and that will provide a substantial savings and impetus. So I believe that that will aid in the manufacturing here. We are also working with industry, and again, it is across a wide range that we will see. Some companies will make less, some will make more.
I appreciate that. I love to see our growth in our manufacturing. During the last administration, we had 3 to 7 million individuals who are able-bodied adult of working age come off of the workforce. We need workers. And guess what? Some of those people will come off Medicaid and actually get insurance by their jobs. So again, just a little bit of truth. Real quickly.
And Congressman, as I said earlier, that we have approximately 9% of of the workforce that is in manufacturing. Historically, real wage increases accrue to manufacturing workers faster than lower end service economy workers. So I think we could still see real wage growth there also.
Right, facts matter. Quickly, I'd like to talk to you about transshipment. Transshipment by Chinese companies have undermined President Trump's Section 301 tariffs, and the problem seems to be getting worse. Can you elaborate by any chance if any discussion with China was done about transshipment, or is that in order? Is that going to be discussed?
Well, as you can imagine, they pushed back on the de minimis exemption, which we have gotten rid of, and we are going to, we are tariffing all the de minimis imports. We are going to set a level, and it will be a global level, not only for Chinese imports, although China floods the zone, because that is their business model, is to export their deflationary impulse, which is unacceptable to the rest of the world, especially for U.S. citizens. So we are going to set a global level for these de minimis imports.
Thank you. It's nice to see an administration actually do something on trade. We did nothing in the last 4 years, and I'm sorry if it hurts people's feelings that they've tariffed against us and we're retaliating, trying to do things better for the American people. Support what you do, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Kustoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today and after your long days of travel. So thank you very much for being here. If I could ask you, Mr. Secretary, there's been a lot of attention lately and a lot of conversation around the bond markets and rising yields for U.S. Treasuries. If I could get you to address that, maybe some reassurance. Maybe a couple of questions. First of all, what is your current assessment of the bond markets and your view of the upward pressure on Treasury yields recently?
Congressman, if I could break that down into three pieces. One is the smooth functioning of the bond market. So even during the April high volume, high volatility period, the bond markets functioned very well, trades cleared. There was never a question of financial stability. Two, at Treasury, our bond issuance is going quite well. We are actually seeing an uptick in primary purchasers as opposed to, so these are the end users who would hold it as opposed to dealers or flippers. And then three, as I said earlier, the United States 10-year is the only major 10-year yield in the world that is down on the year, So for all the sky is falling and cries of what's happening, or that a crisis is inevitable, the U.S. continues to be the most stable bond market.
You've had a lot of questions today about the One Big Beautiful Bill, and a lot of questions, very detailed questions. What would happen to the economy if Congress were to fail to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill and the majority of the tax cuts from 2017
hard landing?
Again, Congressman,
this is what I've been telling you guys.
So one,
if we don't get a large spending bill, the economy becomes vulnerable.
Debt ceiling.
Imagine what Biden's economy would have looked like if there was $2 trillion less dollars a year.
That must be raised and extended. And so we will not even talk about the ramifications of that because it will never happen.
We won't even talk of it. It'll never happen.
It would be an economic sudden stop where we would see
Listen to this.
Cataclysmic event for working Americans, for job creation, for the
the government,
system.
no economy broke,
So
no
if
government
it's
spend.
unthinkable
It's
that
done.
This could happen. It would be the largest tax increase in history. And
See, he's
again,
saying tax increase,
I'm
and
not
that's true, but I think
necessarily,
it's much more
criticized
sinister
for my
than that.
criticism of the CBO.
It's just pure
I'm not
demand.
necessarily going after the men and women who work there. I'm going after their insufficient models, because their insufficient models say that if we make permanent the tax bill, that we don't get an increase in growth. But to your point, if somehow the One Big Beautiful Bill were not passed, that growth will remain the same, which is obviously the ridiculous assumption.
Wouldn't it be devastating for the economy if we failed to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill?
So I think it could set off the financial crisis,
Yeah.
the likes of which we have not seen.
Yeah.
since 2009.
Well, at least I'm in the
Secretary,
neighborhood,
would
you
rather be
guys. I
Treasury
think I'm in the
Secretary than Chairman
neighborhood.
of the Federal Reserve, wouldn't you?
Because that does
Sir, I
confirm a
think
lot
I
of what I've
have,
told you in advance.
With the other than some congressional reporting, the best job in Washington, and I am happy to do what President Trump wants me to do, and I think that we are making great progress at Treasury. I can tell you that having been in the business building now since January 28th, the professional staff is incredible. And the political staff that we brought in, everyone is working well together. We are working to enhance the economy for the American people, maintain the reserve status of the US dollar, and to your first question, make sure that the US Treasury market, which is the largest and soundest and bellwether for the world, maintains that status. And I would like to stay in my seat through 2029 to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have repeatedly said that there are no outside experts who support the One Big Beautiful Bill, and I would like to correct that for the record for a moment. So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to submit for the record a letter that was sent to President Trump, Speaker Mike Johnson, and Leader John Thune on June 3rd, showing 300 economists' support for the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Google names new chief AI architect to advance
pro-growth
developments.
tax policies, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit that for the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I yield back.
Good, and Congressman, I believe I may have been in London when that was published, so I look forward to perusing the names of the economists on that list.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Byer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, the role of the Secretary of the Treasury is one of the most important and consequential in the entire federal government. You're responsible for our nation's economic prosperity, for ensuring the stability of our financial systems, and you're a successful guy with an Ivy League education. One would assume that you would understand that to execute on these objectives, you must apply foundational, widely acceptable principles to support economic growth. For example, a climate of economic stability and predictability.
Oh yeah,
ensuring the
auction
economy
in 8
has
minutes.
a strong and stable workforce,
Yes.
supporting
Do
science
not
and
be
innovation,
bold. You're
and
right
much
at
more.
VWAP, right at open.
Yet at every turn, your policies fly in the face
It's
of
not
these
the big
basic
one,
principles.
but it could
The erratic
get the
tariffs
ball
within the
rolling.
markets and consumer
Tomorrow's
confidence
the bigger
into free
auction,
fall,
but yeah.
while driving up costs for businesses and consumers alike. The misguided and cruel immigration policies of this administration are forcing highly skilled talent to seek opportunities outside of the U.S. and have left businesses across the country without workers they need and our communities depend upon. And the indiscriminate slashing of our libraries, medical research centers, NIH, the National Science Foundation, have forced our scientific progress backwards. At the same time, your public comments about the state of the economy suggest you don't even understand the severity of the damage that you're causing. For example, for months, despite every indication to the contrary, you've suggested that the US dollar is not weakening, but instead that currencies of other countries are growing stronger. This might be more credible if the dollar hadn't weakened against gold most of all. That's akin to suggesting our sea levels aren't rising, that the land is shrinking. Demand for treasuries is weakening and the markets aren't buying what you're selling. The only time the markets have reacted positively is when the administration is in retreat from key policy areas. I want to say, given your successful past, isn't this embarrassing?
Is there a question there, sir?
There's a question. Isn't this embarrassing?
Oh, is it embarrassing? Well, I'm sorry, Congressman, but you seem not to have seen the economic data. The GDP growth has been quite substantial. Job growth is solid.
GDP growth is half what it was last year, sir.
The job growth is solid, and we had
job growth is a third what it was all last year, sir.
No. And private sector job growth especially. And if you'd like to talk about inflation, would you?
The inflation has been coming down. Just the inflation is good so far. We will see every economic thing I read, which is much every day, suggests the impact of the tariffs is not hit yet.
Well, why don't we look at the data rather than the hysteria, which is how I made my career.
Let me move on. You like to use the phrase strategic uncertainty as a justification for the tariff mess, pretending that the erratic policies have been the result of a clever, thoughtful plan, which is impossible to believe. There's a common assertion with these tariffs that I'm struggling to understand. The committee just passed a reconciliation bill that's going to explode the deficit by almost $3 trillion. The president tells us that's just fine because according to the CBO, if all of his tariffs policies remain in place, we're going to see $2.8 trillion in new taxes from the tariffs. You used that number earlier today over the next 10 years. But here's my question. If you're supposedly cutting all these deals, 90 deals in 90 days, and the president's going to retain the power to adjust tariffs on a whim, how can we reasonably expect that those $2.8 trillion in new tariff revenues are going to be real? Isn't this just one more example of how the lack of a plan is going to lead to an explosion in the nation's debt? How do you have your cake and eat it too? Well, you claim the tariff revenue is going to offset the increase in debt, and yet you also say you're going to get rid of that tariff revenue by negotiating 90 new deals.
Well, Congressman, two things. It sounds like you're questioning the CBO because that's a CBO score, not my number.
You used it today.
Yeah, but it's the CBO score. So if you want to use CBO, let's use CBO. They're claiming $2.4 trillion in new debt, and they're also saying 2.8 in tariff income. Even in Washington math, that's plus 400 billion.
That does miss the 500 billion in new interest on the debt, which takes it up to 3 trillion. But
So
finally,
you don't agree with the CBO either.
In my 45 seconds, your counterpart, Secretary Lutnick, recently declared on television that Trump's president's tariffs are not going away, quote unquote, even with your deal on China that you announced. Secretary Lutnick was asked by Senator Kennedy if he'd accept a deal that removed trade barriers for places like Vietnam, and he gave an answer that was frankly all over the place and difficult to understand. We're less than a month away from Liberation Day Part 2. Very few of the trade deals have been announced yet. I think most people in Congress and around the world would like to know what's going on. Should America be preparing for Liberation Day 2.0? Should we plan, what do we plan for July 9th and July 2nd?
I would say, as I have repeatedly
July
said,
4th.
that
So
there
are
are
you going to
18
pass the
important
bill?
trading partners.
Hold
we are
on,
working
motherfucker.
toward
Ask
deals
the day
on
you
those,
want.
and it is highly
America.
likely that those countries that are negotiating or trading blocs, as in the case of the EU, who are negotiating in good faith, we will
The
roll
pipeline
tape
headline, yeah,
forward
that
to
was a little bit
continue
ago.
the good faith negotiations. If someone is not negotiating, then we will not.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, the Democrats and the left continue to say that this is just a tax cut for billionaires. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to respond to that.
Sir, as we saw last time, the impetus or the higher collections were on the upper bracket. So the top 10%, the top 1% pay more. If I weigh 200 pounds and my sister weighs 100 pounds, which is approximately right, and we both lose 10% weight, then I lose 20 pounds and she loses 10.
Oh, yeah, but you're fast.
They prefer to speak in absolute.
Okay.
Rather
All right, get ready
than
for the bond
percentages.
auction.
So
We got
the
1 minute.
percent
I'll get you
increase
guys the
as
when issued.
the,
And then I think this bond auction will be able to move us. I don't know how much longer we're going to listen to this shit. But after the bond auction, we are going to move on over to Philo. So I'm going to turn the wire on so you could get the bond results. But yeah, you will need a membership. So thank you to all the members already. If you feel like today is going to be a day where you need your head on a swivel, then you might want to get your membership. Otherwise, I will see you around Power Hour. Yes, it is a 10-year bond auction. And then tomorrow, that's the real big one, the 30-year, even though it shouldn't be important, everybody's been clamoring over the long debt and getting worried. And it relates to all of the stuff you've heard here with spending the bill and all of that. So that is the Philo video. I will see you guys there, but I'm going to leave right after the bond results, so in about 2 minutes. So get ready and get your membership and get some hope, baby. Get a long-term.
Households did better. Working households saw a substantial increase in their household net worth compared to the household net worth increase of the top 1%. So
hooking them up.
Again, in percentage terms, which is what
Let's go,
matters.
baby. Oh,
And
Tyree
Congressman,
Toll.
What also
They love you,
matters is
They
how
love
much
you.
do Americans keep? What is the real the return? Because we just experienced this great inflation. The statistics said that inflation was 21%. The goods basket for most Americans, because it includes the cars, insurance, groceries, was in excess of 30%. So that inflation, they're still trying to recover from this affordability crisis. And as I said earlier, there are two ways to recover from that. Lower the prices, which we're working hard to do. Gasoline prices are down substantially. Or have real wage increases, which we believe that this bill will drive.
Well, that's not even touching on.
I don't even have the
if
when
we
issued
did not
yet.
pass this bill, the increase on small businesses by the 199A deduction going up by almost 20%, the impact that would have on small businesses in our country.
Exactly, Congressman. And as I've said many times, and I get somehow my friends on Wall Street accuse me of being a redistributionist when I say Wall Street's done great. It's time for Main Street to do great. Wall Street can still do fine.
4.428.
Both can do
There
well
it is.
together, but it is
So
Main
Chad
Street's
has it,
time.
4.428.
Main Street is driven by
Higher
small
bad,
business.
lower
We are
good.
working on
Easy.
regulations. I've had.
You'll see it on here.
I've probably met, including conferences, over 300 small and community bankers to try to stop this regulatory noose that is around them so that they can grow the economy.
Oh, legal.
So the one big beautiful bill had
God bless you,
strong
bro.
language blocking the use of ESG metrics in federal contracting and finance.
4.42A.
How is Treasury ensuring that
Yalla,
woke
Habibi,
corporate
they took an
activism
extra
is
minute.
no longer subsidized or promoted
There it
with
is.
taxpayer
4.421. Bullish.
We have
All right, so
taken
you
out
should
all
probably go back
language
up at
of
least to the
Treasury.
high. It
We
could
are
fade though,
looking
but
at it
in
all
general, good
contracts,
CPI, good
and
bond
we are
auction,
looking
good
for the
China
best
deal,
outcomes.
bad
So I
Bessent
think if you were
discussion,
to
but
look
yeah,
at
I don't
the
know,
CHIPS
man.
Act, which
You
the
still got the
Democrats
headwind
felt was
tomorrow
a
with the
great
30-year,
success,
but
there
that
were
came in
so
lower, bro.
many
4.421,
bells
slightly
and
lower. It's
whistles
not a
in
major
that,
difference.
that it
Still
was
elevated
impossible to
yields,
get the
still
money
very
out the door
dangerous and bad.
by the Commerce
But
Department
again, if you want to play the
during
game of
the tenure of the Biden
good or bad
administration.
bond auction, that was good.
In the little time I have
Big
left,
to cover,
President
pretty
Trump
high.
has made clear that U.S.
Not
trade
like
policy
crazy
must
high,
put
but
America
higher.
workers first. How is Treasury working
Again,
with
eye on
USTR and
indirects.
other
We'll get the full
agencies to
details in a
ensure
little
that
bit.
Financial and trade
But not
policy
bad.
is
I think you
aligned
don't
with the
have
America
to worry
First
about
agenda.
that causing any volatility.
We work
Again, it
every
might
day
fade, but then
on
generally
that, and
most
we
of
are
today's events
trying
have gone
to,
well.
These trade deals or this trade situation did not happen overnight. It's happened over 20 or 40 years. As I said earlier, I agree with President Trump that I'm not blaming the countries. They got away with it. It was the administration, Congress, who let them get away with it.
Why you let
So
them
we
get
are
away,
pushing
huh?
back
You gave them the
on,
way, they get away, you
high
know?
tariff countries, non-tariff trade barriers, which
Indirect, 70?
could include things like
That's but that's
local
very good.
content,
Lower than last time, but
currency
that demand of
manipulation,
what people
and
are
then
saying with like people not
as
buying, it
in
just doesn't
the
add
case
up.
of China and many other countries, subsidies
All right.
to
So
industry.
I'm gonna end this video. We're gonna move on over to Philo, and then we'll play this for a little bit, and then we'll get into the Philo, and then yeah, you're right at open. You got another good set of data. That is pretty much it. So Chad, welcome to the new members. I will see you guys there, and I'll be back on Power Hour. And if I don't see you, have a great day, baby, and get a long term. Amen. Amen. Peace.